This is Adam Graham from Pretty Much the Present, bringing you a week of old-time radio podcasts. These episodes were originally released back in 2011, and we're releasing them here pretty much as is, with only some extraneous bits such as the opening from all of the episodes after the first episode removed. Because these are old, it should be noted that any offers or promotions mentioned in the episode may not be valid unless they're currently mentioned on the Great Detectives website. Here now is a week of old-time radio detective podcast. Welcome to the Great Detectives of Old Time Radio. From Boise, Idaho, this is your host, Adam Graham. If you have a comment, email it to me, box13@greatdetectives.net. Be sure to cast your vote for the show every month on Podcast Alley, podcastalley.greatdetectives.net. And follow us on Twitter at Radio Detectives. Well, before we do get started, I want to encourage you to support our Summer 2011 Listener Support Campaign. Go to support.greatdetectives.net, and any contribution is appreciated. A donation of $7 or more gets you access to our premium site, and donations of $20 or more will receive an additional gift. We do have a couple comments. First of all, our first support comes in from William, who says, Adam, when I sent my last donation, I promised to support your fantastic podcast after my retirement. I am now able to listen while working around the property. Please continue to provide this extremely valuable service. Well, thank you so much, Bill, and much appreciated. Hope you are enjoying your retirement, and appreciate the support. Email, and we'll be sending out your choice of several Colonial Radio Theater audio dramas. And then we also received a comment here from Aaron, who says, I think the pledge drive is a great idea. Listeners could contribute at their chosen level, helping to offset your expenses. Thanks for the great shows, and best regards from Aaron in New York. Well, thanks so much, Aaron. Well, now it's time to get into today's episode of Barrie Craig. I want to remind you to be sure and listen after the program, because we're going to talk about additional programming that will be coming to the Great Detectives of Old Time Radio in the course of our 2011-2012 season, which starts up in October. But here now is Murder Island.
William Gargan stars as Barrie Craig, confidential investigator.
Did you ever wonder, folks, how a certain species of blonde can breathe in spite of a heart of stone?
The National Broadcasting Company presents William Gargan in another transcribed drama of mystery and adventure with America's #1 detective, Barrie Craig, confidential investigator.
Barrie Craig speaking. A confidential investigator occupies a kind of strategic position in law enforcement. He can mix with an element a regular department cop is obliged to scorn, if not arrest on sight. Like a cop, the confidential operator is on the side of the angels, but he can work for the devil, like I did, not too voluntarily once upon a crime. The case came at me in broad daylight at the foot of Father Duffy's statue on Broadway. The first I knew of it was a gun in my ribs.
Freeze, Shamus, and don't let out a peep.
A tough right out of a B-movie, with a reek to him like he ate garlic for candy. Is it a gun or a monkey wrench, Sonny?
Bleed and find out.
A line of dialogue like that you ought to copyright.
Hey, you're talking yourself to death.
Shut my mouth.
See that car in the corner?
The green and white job that reads PD?
Not the police car, smart guy, the one behind it.
Oh, the hot limousine.
It ain't hot. It was bought legitimate.
Pardon me.
Go get into it.
Times must be hard for you to get down to me.
This isn't a snatch.
And what is it?
You'll find out. In with you. Give her the gun, Needles. And off the big street, first turn you can make.
Heading downtown, I tried for a peek into my future. Who was it?
Who was who?
Hired you to work over me.
You're sure in a sweat, Shamus.
It's my memories coming back. A lot of guys resent the free room and board I arranged for them up the river.
You're guessing wrong.
Oh, I'm relieved. Or am I?
I'm gonna blindfold you now.
A cigarette test?
Now, why ain't you a comedian?
Right now, I wish I'd picked the occupation.
Hold steady. Can't see, can you?
Can't even breathe. Why include my nose in a blindfold?
Breathe through your mouth, like me.
I haven't the adenoids for it.
Yeah, another crack, I'll rock you to sleep. Now shut up and enjoy the ride.
I could guess our general destination by the odor. A New Yorker develops a nose for local geography. Front Street somewhere, off the East River. The Fulton Fish Market couldn't be too far away.
You're going down cellar steps, so hold on to a rail.
I've got the rail.
In with your Shamus.
Hey, was that push necessary?
Here's your pigeon, boss.
Good work. Take the blindfold off.
I second the motion.
Hello, Craig.
Wait till the fog lifts. Not Sam Stacy.
Surprised?
I'm shocked at the lousy reporting this town gets. The headlines have you in Acapulco and China.
The papers have been crucifying me. Mad dog killer Stacy. Where do they come off with that stuff?
A guy named Crowley wasn't only dead. A bullet in his brain, plus his head caved in, plus his features smeared and his clothes gone to make identification impossible, plus being drowned in Long Island Sound. You put your heart in your work, Stacy.
I didn't kill Crowley.
Nobody will believe you.
Sure, I'm a dog with a bad name. Grab Stacy, hang the frame on him.
Okay. Start lying at me.
Lying?
Isn't that why I'm down here with the smell of fish and rats?
Why, you...
Maxine, lay off.
Maxie insults easy.
Stop baiting him, Craig. He's a hothead.
I must remember to cool him off someday. I'm waiting to hear the lie.
There was bad blood between me and Crowley, sure. I never made a secret of it. Crowley began taking horse bets on my side of the street. Like a chump, I shot off my mouth publicly where stoolies could pipe my remarks to the cops.
Shut off your mouth about what you were going to do to Crowley.
That's right.
But you didn't.
I didn't get a chance to.
You tried to, however.
Yeah. I'll give you the truth with nothing held back.
At your own risk. Under these circumstances, I don't regard it as confidential.
The day before Crowley was fished out of the river, I trailed him to Obermeyer's boathouse over on the north shore of Long Island. But...
What's the big but?
Crowley shook me. I washed for him in my car off the pier, figuring he'd come walking right into my gun. He never came off the pier. He took off by motorboat.
That's your story.
It's the honest truth.
Why are you crying at me?
Get whoever beat me to Crowley. Get me in the clear. I'll pay you a fat fee.
If you live.
I'll live.
I've got a hot flash for you. There's a shoot-to-kill order out for you.
I'm in Acapulco, China.
Only I know different now.
You mean you'll finger me?
I mean.
It's a chance I'll have to take. The way it stacks, you're my only chance.
Why not let me surrender you alive?
No good. I'd hate myself in the hot seat. Maxie.
Yeah, boss?
Dump Craig somewhere.
Crease him a little?
A little. I can't risk you being able to pinpoint my hideout, Craig, if you decide against me.
I've been hit on the head before.
I don't want Craig injured, Maxie.
Just like you say. A big break for you, Shamus.
I came to with the 3rd Avenue L roaring through my head. I was on a stoop front, tilted at an angle, my hat down over my eyes, and an empty pint bottle at my feet, like a bum sleeping off a bottle of paint remover. Sensitive Maxie had a sense of humor after all. I found a note pinned inside my coat. Craig, I've got a wife and kids. Please, Stacy. Pinned to the note was a $1,000 bill, a retainer. A wife and kids. If it was a lie, it was a good one. It was about the only way Stacy could hook me as a helper. Looking to hail a cruising cab, I got a first-hand view of Metropolitan Police efficiency. A familiar flivver that breezed so close it flicked lint off my trousers.
Barrie Craig.
Lieutenant Trav Rogers.
Climb in.
Must I?
It's an order.
Where are we going?
To make a police entry that you've been recovered safe and sound.
What's the gag?
You tell me. You were reported as kidnapped 2 hours ago.
Joke.
I'm not in the habit of wasting official time on practical jokes. A Broadway news vendor with a stand across from Father Dovey's statue phoned in a report that a gunman picked you off the sidewalk and took you for a ride.
Nice to know our great big city is on its toes.
I anticipated the worst. I have my men checking hospitals, ditches, cellars, and the morgue.
Tell them they can go back to playing pinochle.
Craig, what was it about?
About?
The snatch.
Oh. Trav, I wish I could tell you, only...
Only?
I got hit on the head. Here, feel the lump.
So?
So I don't know anything. I got a touch of amnesia from the blow.
Craig?
Let me out at the corner, huh? Like a sweetheart. I got an important engagement with a boathouse. Obermeyer's boathouse looked like a wreck washed ashore by a hurricane. Scrap iron, old anchors, piles of rusted junk. Like Obermeyer never threw anything away. Boats for rent, hour, day, or week, the sign read. Hello?
Yeah,
Oh, you rent motorboats?
you can read.
Sassy at your age, and you won't make out with St. Peter.
What do you want?
Civility.
Ain't got any. Rent boats.
Who's kidding who? Brace yourself for a shock, Obermeyer.
I don't have to. You're a detective.
It shows.
Big feet, bad jokes, and a swelled head. Now, what you after?
A murderer.
You won't find him here.
The victim was a man named Crowley, a man you rented a boat to.
I ain't never murdered a customer.
Do you have some reason for being a little slippery, Grandpa?
See through it, do you?
Like through glass.
I've got a reason. $200.
Meaning?
The deposit is,
Crowley?
Crowley left for the motorboat.
He never came back for it.
He never brought the boat back. Found it scuttled on a sandbar. Repairs on it came to more than $200.
Relax, I'm not parting you for your money. So $200 is why you never made a police report.
Police report, you say?
That slippery note's back. You knowingly held back information bearing on a murder case.
I'm a poor man.
And a grade A chiseler. Where was Crowley taking himself to?
How could I know?
Because you're the inquisitive type.
Murder Island?
Murder Island?
Name it got from the tenants on it.
Where is Murder Island?
About 4 miles north by east out there in the Sound.
Who tenants it?
Vince Keeley. If you're a detective, you'll know him.
Yeah, I do. Gambling czar, only nobody's ever proved it. On trial for murder last year, only the jury didn't convict.
Keeley had an alibi.
Yeah, surprise alibi. The last-minute kind that knocks down a case. I want a motorboat and a chartered course to Murder Island.
A storm coming up.
Well, not for hours, the way the sky looks.
Storms are deceiving.
I'll take the chance.
I'll want a deposit.
I'll bring the boat back.
If Keeley lets you come back, I'll want a deposit.
Storms were deceiving. The storm had come at me. Like Obermeyer had push-button control over storms and was having this laugh at me. Rain in buckets from overhead and the river splashing over me below. Faster than I could bail water. It was only minutes before I had to swim for it. What flashes through your head when you see death working you over? One measly thought playing over and over like a record stuck in a groove. Why did this have to happen to me? When there was no doubt about Obermeyer losing a boat to Davy Jones, I started the long swim. Coming up for the third time. Water running out of your nose and ears. You get hallucinations. Pleasant ones. My hallucination was a sea nymph with the build of a channel swimmer. Looking at her face was like leafing through an old album. She was every lady I'd ever known, starting with my mother.
Lie on your back. Give me your hand so I can pull you to shore.
Give her my hand. Talking like my life was her special problem.
Hold tight now.
Hold tight. You obey. You let her take charge while you go to sleep. I knew I was still alive by the sandflies making a playground of my chest. I was on a beach littered with fish skeletons.
Hello.
And a girl flopping beside me like a come-to-Bermuda poster of honeymooners. A girl with none of the faces in the old album.
Flash storm capsized your boat.
Yeah. Obermeyer worked that trick with push buttons.
What'd you say?
Never mind. You rescued me, huh?
I saw you thrashing around like a dying fish 100 yards offshore.
How come you were on hand to see me?
Have you noticed my swimsuit?
I've got eye strain. Are you always swimming in a flash storm?
Are you?
I'm Barrie Craig.
The detective?
Oh, I can't believe I'm that famous.
You are along 52nd Street.
21 and Nightclub Row?
I'm Rose Renee.
The queen of burlesque?
Oh, I can't believe I'm that famous.
You are among connoisseurs. Exactly where are we?
On Murder Island.
Oh. You belong to it?
I'm married to it.
Married? Let me try to guess. Mrs. Vince Keeley.
Play Hearts and Flowers, Maestro.
It's as bad as that?
A jail sentence. I'm a prisoner of love. Vince bought me, only he welched on the payment. He welched after I said I do.
Why the frank talk?
Well, I feel I broadcast. That's my nature. I'm cooped up on this crummy island so Vince won't have to fight off the boys giving me the eye. The only glad rags I get to wear is a swimsuit.
So pick up and go.
I'm allergic to morgues.
Yeah. Murder is Vince's business, they say.
That's no joke. Vince connived his way out of one murder rap last year with a phony alibi.
Yeah, I remember the trial. Who was it again Vince was charged with knocking off?
Dixie Dugan, his business partner.
Oh,
Slot machines, dice houses, stolen liquor. Dugan was fed up, about to confess all to the DA when he suddenly turned up dead. Vince served champagne that night to celebrate.
Why are you telling me all this?
On the hunch that it's case reopened. But you're here after Vince.
You really want a divorce?
Oh, any old way.
Then tell me about a fellow named Crowley.
Crowley was Vince's star witness last year. Crowley's alibi for Vince got Vince acquitted.
Sister, your divorce is practically on the horizon if you come through with this next one. Did Crowley come here to Murder Island lately?
Crowley was always coming to the island. He and Vince were squabbling all the time.
What about?
Hush money. I passed the time getting an earful of things. Crowley was putting the bite on Vince.
Blackmail for his perjured testimony?
I asked you.
How about Sam Stacy?
Never heard of him.
Stacy's being accused of murdering Crowley.
News to me. I'm shut off from the outside world. Look, I gotta go now before Vince sends out a searching party. Don't let on to Vince we met.
Am I the dope to kill the golden goose? A snake in Vince's bosom. Boredom wasn't Rose's only motive for putting hubby on the spot. She had her eye on big dough and a high old life as a merry widow. Vince Keeley acted as outraged as a guy could get.
Craig, you've got rocks in your head coming here to burn me.
Let's confine the argument to Crowley.
I haven't seen or heard of Crowley for over 6 months.
Oh, no?
No.
Then how was the payoff worked?
What payoff?
The blackmail money to Crowley for the perjured alibi last year.
Hey, you're asking for something.
You hinting the river?
Now, look, you got me all wrong. I made a shady buck once, sure. It's all behind me. I'm out of the rackets now, clean as a whistle, living respectably. Why, I'm even holed up on the island to keep out of trouble, to improve my mind and amount to something more than a mug.
I can't cry. I don't have a handkerchief on me.
Hey, look around you, Craig. All the books on them shelves. I promised myself I wouldn't get off this island until I read every one of them. Why even take piano lessons?
How about typewriter practice?
I asked you to quit writing me.
So you didn't murder Crowley to stop his blackmail?
No.
You also denied that he perjured for you once?
I deny it, yeah.
And Sam Stacy. Know him?
Not familiarly. A punk bookie somewhere, isn't
He is. They're pinning the Crowley rap on him.
he? Well, it's nothing to me. We through?
No. Who was your lawyer?
George Brooks.
Did Brooks defend you in that murder trial last year?
Yeah. Now what are you up to?
Just familiarizing myself with all the ramifications of your living. The coming genius like you with books and a piano. I might want to do a profile for the society pages.
Craig, get out of here.
Sure. But first I'm showing you this.
A rod, huh?
A rod. I'll take some killing before I'm killed.
You're crazy.
Prove it by ferrying me off the island. I lost my boat to a storm.
I'll have you ferried off, but stay off.
Back in town, George Brooks, the mouthpiece, was twice as outraged as Vince Keeley'd managed to be.
Craig, you've no right to persecute Vince Keeley.
I haven't, huh?
The man's turned over a new leaf. He's reformed. He's cut off every association he had with his former life.
Let's boil it down to murder.
Accusing Vince of murdering this Crowley is fantastic.
How about accusing Vince of winning acquittal in a murder trial through the late Crowley's perjured testimony?
That's a cheap, contemptible lie. I defended that case.
I know. Why do you represent a man as notorious as Vince Keeley?
Because I believe every man has some good in him. Because I'm not a blue nose or a moralist. Because I have every evidence Vince Keeley wants to live a decent, useful life if given a chance.
You're positive Keeley hasn't done murder, past or present?
If I believed otherwise, I wouldn't raise a finger to help him. Whoever murdered Crowley, it wasn't Keeley. And now, if you don't mind, I've a busy schedule.
Okay if I use your phone for a minute?
If you must.
Barrie Craig speaking. Give me Lieutenant Trev Rogers.
Craig, if you mean this as some psychological trick, it's utterly childish.
Is that why you're beginning to perspire? Over coffee and sinkers, I got the benefit of Trev Rogers' power of analysis.
Putting one and one together from what you've told me, one notion keeps standing up in my head, Craig.
Said notion being?
That you might end up where you began, with your, client.
Stacy murdered Crowley like the police bulletins insist, huh?
Yes. Stacy hired you as a smokescreen. He heard Crowley had business with the Czar of Murder Island, and...
And hoped I'd create a competing suspect in Vince Keeley.
And take the heat off Stacy.
The notion makes sense, but...
You don't buy it.
Not until I have another look at Murder Island.
Looking for what?
The Queen of Clubs.
Rose Renee.
And at the terrain, the rocks, shrubbery. I'm curious about Crowley's missing clothes, his personal effects.
Crowley's clothes?
He wasn't wearing any when he came out of the river.
You've got a point. Find any article of Crowley's on Murder Island, and you've made a liar out of Vince Keeley.
Crowley hadn't been around in over 6 months, Vince swears.
Let's go.
Oh, just a minute. You including yourself in?
It's suicide to buck Keeley and his crowd alone.
I'm the suicidal type. Morbid depths to my personality, my horoscope says.
Craig, don't be stubborn or vain. The case is too big, too important for a confidential operative to lone wolf it.
I've done okay so far, without company.
Then I'll have to throw the book at you. You're representing a fugitive from justice, a man we've issued orders to shoot on sight. The regulations governing your license...
Cut. Nice speech, but I'm only half convinced. Now, give me the other half.
I don't want to see you dead. Your repulsive kisser is an eyesore I've gotten used to. Like poison ivy in July.
Lieutenant, you are cordially invited on an excursion to Murder Island. We combed every nook and crag of Murder Island, but no luck.
My aching feet, Craig. I can make a surveyor's map of this rock pile from memory.
So we drew a blank.
Will that be your queen of clubs?
It is.
Barrie Craig. And friend?
Lieutenant Trav Rogers. What have you got? A divining rod for locating me?
I've been watching you for half an hour. You're wasting your time.
Am I?
You won't find Crowley's clothes.
How do you know what we're searching for?
Is that hard? It even occurred to me to look for them.
How'd you make out?
Ashes.
Ashes?
The clothes were burned. See that stone incinerator over there?
Yes.
That's where Vince burned them.
Still punching for that divorce, huh? Lead me to the ashes.
These are the ashes of fabric.
You're sure?
I did some in police lab. Fabric burns in its own special way. The ash has a consistency.
Hey, I've got something that practically converts the ash back to a suit of clothes.
What is it, Craig?
What does this look like to you?
Cufflink. What's left of it? Any initials?
C.
See for Crowley. That settles Vince's hash. Oh, freedom, it's wonderful.
Postpone that freedom, Jag, sister. Hubby's still a long way from the disaster you wish on him.
Oh, last mile away. Vince knows your investigation's going to blow hot any minute. That's why he's got his mouthpiece here now.
George Brooks is here?
Yes, Vince couldn't get his lawyer here fast enough after you came calling. It's murder, and this time no phony alibi. I can go back to sleeping nights. I can breathe. I can live.
You're putting on quite a show, Miss Renee.
I don't make a mystery of my feelings. Lieutenant, I'm glad and I acted. Go rub that ash in Vince's face. Tell him what a homicidal maniac he is and put the handcuffs on him. Well, why don't you go?
Quite a repertory, Rose Renee.
Hysterics. They were long overdue. Vince Keeley roped her into marriage and never let go of the noose.
The way you work up sympathy.
I'm not all cop, Trev. Who makes the arrest?
It's your case. Door's locked. A pistol shot, Craig.
From inside the house.
Vince! Vince, let me in! Vince!
Can you identify whose voice?
Brooks, the mouthpiece.
Asking Vince to open the door?
Sounds like Vince shot himself. Locked himself in a room and shot himself. Make with that bell again, Trav, and don't take your thumb off it.
Who? Craig.
And Lieutenant Rogers. What was that shot?
Vince, in the library. He locked himself in and shot himself.
Rough.
I begged him not to, not suicide.
What alternative did you suggest, Brooks?
Alternative?
Lieutenant means suicide or the chair for murder. It was 6 of one and a half a dozen of another for Vince.
Yes, I suppose you're right.
You sound like you've changed your mind about Vince's reformed character.
Vince changed it for me. He confessed many things to me. I've been a blind fool.
What did Vince confess about Crowley?
Vince confessed to murdering Crowley.
In the library, Vince Keeley lay in peace with a look on his face that said he wasn't sorry to go. Queen of clubs bawled like a baby. The senseless kind of tears women are famous for. While the mouthpiece, Brooks, beat his breast and put Vince's confession on the record.
I've been duped, tricked, made the fool.
Vince's confession, please.
Vince had hired Crowley to perjure in the trial last year. Mind you now, I believed Vince innocent. Since then, blackmail with Crowley demanding heavier sums.
On Crowley's threat to expose his perjury for Vince?
Yes, of course, Lieutenant. Vince had to pay to prevent reopening of an old case. Crowley bled him white until...
Until Vince murdered him and threw him into the river.
Yes, that's it, substantially.
Craig.
What?
Which of us tells him?
It's still my case. You're under arrest, Brooks.
But you're insane.
Shut up and listen. Smoke rises to the ceiling and hangs there. You fired a phony shot in the outer hall when we rang the bell. You staged a fake suicide. You'd already killed Vince Keeley in here.
Oh, what possible motive would I have?
You could be the big shot behind Vince's rackets. Vince had the low mentality of a racket boy, not a biggie. Crowley's threat against Vince threatened you even more.
I won't stand for
And
this.
you lie down for it. Get off the floor, Brooks, and listen to more. You also killed Crowley. Vince would be the world's prized chump to pay Crowley blackmail or even worry about Crowley. That's double jeopardy, Brooks. Crowley could confess perjury from now to doomsday. But no power on earth, no new evidence could force Vince to stand retrial for a murder he'd already stood trial for once. and found acquittal? He's your prisoner, Trav. I'm turning him over to you. A week later, Stacy looked me up to thank me in a midtown Hofbrau where the Wiener Schnitzel made you hungry for ham and eggs.
You took the curse off me, Craig. I'll never forget it. Mad dog killer. Those headlines gave me the willies.
You're grateful, huh?
I'm on bended knees.
You can't reach for your wallet like that.
Reach for my wallet?
There was talk of a fat fee.
Oh. I hate to do this to you, Craig. But the fact is...
The fact is?
I'm broke. Government's new bookie tax. I folded my tent. No bets, no horses. I'm down to driving a beer truck.
For the wife and kids?
That's another thing, Craig, I want to tell you about.
No kids?
No wife, even. I'm not married.
Good night, folks. See you next week.
You've been listening to William Gargan in another exciting transcribed mystery drama from the adventures of Barrie Craig, confidential investigator. Tonight's story, Murder Island, was written by John Robert. Next week, it's the strange story titled Fatal Appointment, about which Barrie Craig has this to say.
Next week, a beautiful girl dies in a hotel room. A man gives all for love, and an appointment for romance winds up in a rendezvous with death. See you next week, folks.
Featured in the role of Rose was Elspeth Eric. Barrie Craig, starring William Gargan, was under the direction of Hyman Brown. This is Don Pardo speaking.
Now enjoy Meredith Wilson's Music Room on NBC.
Welcome back. Well, on the bright side for Barrie Craig, the retainer he was given wasn't anything to sneeze at. So he'll be okay on that regards. And we then again got to see the sort of humorous parody of the roles of private investigators, with Barrie Craig actually making an arrest before handing the suspect over to Trav Rogers, which kind of makes me think they should have just had Trav do the arrest. All right, well, anyway, we wrap up the show. I want to let you know the additional show we're planning on Mondays for the 2011-2012 season. Well, for most of the season, it's going to be Barrie Craig. But coming in August of 2012, or thereabouts, our next Monday show will be The Adventures of Frank Race. So that's coming in August of 2012. We'll have more changes on Tuesday. You'll want to be sure and listen tomorrow. As Barrie Craig said at the end of the show, we'll see you next week for Barrie Craig. But join us back here tomorrow for another episode of Rogues Gallery and learn about the shows we've got planned for Tuesday in the next season. Well, I also want to encourage you to please support our listener support campaign that is running now through September the 10th. Go to support.greatdetectives.net. Any amount is appreciated. Tips of $7 or more are entitled to our premium site. Those of $20 or more are entitled to additional gift, usually an audio download of a great radio drama we can't bring you here because of copyright, but which we can buy and send out to you. Go to support.greatdetectives.net and for details. Be sure to listen after the show because we're going to talk about some of the programs you're going to hear coming in the 2011-2012 season, and you'll definitely want to listen to that. But let's go ahead and we will take a listen to today's episode of Rogues Gallery. This one is called The Impossible Murder.
The F.W. Fitch Company presents Dick Powell as private investigator Richard Rogue in Rogue's Gallery.
Laugh a while, let a song be your style. Use Fitch shampoo. Don't despair, use your head, save your hair. Use Fitch shampoo.
The F.W. Fitch Company, makers of Fitch's saponified coconut oil shampoo and Fitch's shaving creams, presents Dick Powell as private investigator Richard Rogue in Rogue's Gallery.
Rogue speaking. I guess it wouldn't be polite for me to make the statement that Judge Colin Baker was a snake. I'll just say I think there was some truth in the rumor that he did shed his skin 3 times a year. The judge, who isn't a judge anymore, was a big barrel-chested guy with a dramatic mop of wavy white hair worn in a sort of a modified wind-blown bob, the better to impress the juries with. He'd made himself a reputation back east as a fire-eating DA, and then later as a hanging judge. He'd been out here about 5 years and had built a statewide reputation as a brilliant criminal lawyer on a set-a-thief-to-catch-a-thief basis. He had just won a big case, and he was having a cocktail party at his penthouse apartment on top of the building, which housed his plush officers. Betty Callahan had covered the trial, and now she and a photographer from her paper were covering the party. I tagged along. Oh, there was a dandy crowd there. Pasty-faced politicians, tired-faced women, and the old two-faced judge in all of his glory.
I think it's a lovely party.
Oh, Richard, isn't this a lovely place? Clear up here on top of this building. Just like living on a mountain.
Yeah, only you can't lock the bottom entrance of a mountain. You see anybody here you would really like to know?
Now, don't be bitter. You know I had to come here tonight. I don't like these people any better than you do.
Well, get it over with as soon as you can. Let's go someplace where I can take my hand off my pocketbook.
Well, my dear Miss Callahan, I'm sorry I couldn't get over to you before. Indeed I am. I saw you come in, but... Richard Rogue, I'm so glad you could come, sir.
Thanks.
And now, my dear, I suppose you like some pictures. I see you have a photographer with you. How thoughtful of you.
Yes. Could I get a group around the fireplace? Just you and the people connected with the trial, the defendant and the witnesses.
Of course. I'll round them up for you immediately.
Oh, thank you, Judge.
Yes.
Mike?
Yeah? You ready to go? Hey, they're sure serving good liquor here. Real scotch. None of that near scotch I get at the bar.
Good. Now, here's what I want, Mike. Get me some shots of the group that's forming over by the fireplace.
Right.
We'll put the judge in the middle. And have everybody congratulating him and the man he saved from the gas chamber.
I can think of a few captions for that picture.
Richard.
Yeah, we couldn't print them. You can't call a prominent guy like the judge a crook, and you can't call a murderer after a bored jury says he's not.
You get the idea, Mike.
Come on, Mike. You stay right here, Richard. I'll be back as soon as we've covered the art angle on the story.
And then we leave, right?
Yeah, just as soon as I can, dear.
I wandered around in the crowd and listened in to scraps of conversations. Jim Dorset, an oily politician on the judge's payroll, was talking with a Mary Miller. Mary is a self-made wealthy widow whom the judge had defended after she'd poisoned her husband. She was glaring hate at the judge like a death ray, and I moved within earshot of them.
Well, Mary, you enjoying yourself at this testimonial to our friend's genius?
I'd rather be at his wake. I'd enjoy my cocktails more.
You can count me in on that, too. I'm surprised at you, though, Mary. He got you out of a pretty bad spot, didn't he?
Yes, for exactly half the money Fred left me. I didn't kill Fred, you know. I was innocent.
Oh, sure. Well, here's to meeting you again soon at his wake.
Happy little gathering. The laughter, which was bouncing off a high ceiling, had all the gay spontaneity of an open grave. But everybody was getting along with the judge. He was a big man. He had lots of money, lots of power. In a way, I couldn't help admiring the old boy. posing over by the immense fireplace, tossing that snowy mane of his about, and filling the rooms with his deep-throated laughter. Betty finally got all of the pictures she wanted and came glaring over to me. I got a little lump in my throat like I always do when I see Betty. Oh, if Mark Antony could have seen her, Cleopatra would have been in the second barge, rowing.
We'll leave in just a moment, Richard. We have to stay and drink one toast to the judge. He's going to be hurt if we don't.
Well, I wouldn't want to cause him pain.
Oh, he's getting our cocktails now. He's going to bring them over.
Okay. Did you get some pretty pictures of the old windbag?
He's charming. I like it.
Shh.
Here he comes.
How can you like a guy like that?
Well, here we are. Hope they're not too strong. Miss Callahan, I wonder if you would forgive me if I borrowed Mr. Rogue for just a moment. I have something I wish to ask his advice on privately.
Why?
Couldn't we make it tomorrow, Judge? Betty and I are...
Tomorrow will be too late, I'm afraid, Mr. Rogue. This will only take a few minutes. You won't mind, will you, Miss Callahan?
No, of course not.
Okay, all right, Judge. Where do we go?
My study, right through here.
Judge, you sure did a fine job.
Now, I received a rather alarming note tonight, Mr. Rogue.
Yes? When?
It was under my glass when I returned to the serving table after those pictures were taken. Here it is.
Paper and envelope from the dime store, huh? Well, can't trace them. Well, let's have a see here. Have a good time, you murderer. You won't be alive at this time tomorrow night. You're going to celebrate an anniversary. You can't run so far that I won't find you and kill you. Unsigned, of course. Printed in block letters with no skill. Anybody could have written that.
And anybody could have left it there on the serving table.
That's right. There have been 100 people drifting in and out of here. You, take the note seriously?
Rogue, I've had threatening letters before, of course, but this one, well, I have a hunch about it. A premonition.
We'll return to our story in just a moment. First, when it comes to good grooming, your mirror can't tell you everything. It can't tell you how much clean, fragrant hair adds to that indefinable something called charm. Don't take chances on detracting from your loveliness. Keep your hair fresh and clean-smelling at all times by using Fitch's saponified coconut oil shampoo regularly. This clear, golden liquid shampoo lathers magnificently and washes away dust, dirt, perspiration, and unpleasant odors from your hair. Fitch's saponified shampoo is made from mild coconut and pure vegetable oils. It never leaves the hair dry or harsh feeling. Thus, you can use it as often as you like and be sure that your hair is shining clean and free from offending odors. Have a professional application of Fitch's saponified coconut oil shampoo the next time you're at your barber or beauty shop. Or buy a bottle at your drug or toilet goods counter. Ask for the economical large size, 16 ounces for $1. Now back to Dick Powell as private investigator Richard Rogue in Rogue's Gallery.
I didn't want to go to the party in the first place. But I wanted to be with Betty Callahan, and she had to be there. It was a victory cocktail party which Judge Colin Baker was throwing to celebrate the fact that he'd cleared another guilty murderer. I wasn't particularly happy when the judge took me in his study and showed me a note threatening him with death within the next 24 hours. In fact, I didn't pay much attention until I looked at the judge's face. He was scared.
Rogue, I've had threatening letters before, but this one... Well, I have a hunch about it, a premonition.
What are you going to do about it?
The safest place in the world for me to stay is right here in this penthouse, and I want you to stay with me, Rogue.
Me?
I'll pay you well for your time, and...
What's well?
I'll give you $500 if you'll stay with me for the next 24 hours, Mr. Rogue.
Oh, 500 clams, huh? Well, Judge, that makes it very interesting.
You'll accept the assignment, then?
Like a flash. Just let me explain it to Betty Callahan. I was supposed to take her out tonight.
Very well. I'm sure Miss Callahan will understand when you tell her about the fee. I need you, Mr. Rogue.
You're so busy you have to break your date with me. That's a habit of yours, isn't it, Richard?
Oh,
Well, you won't ever have to do it again. You'll never have another chance to.
Oh, but Betty, baby, listen, the judge figures someone is going to try to kill him tonight. You don't want to be a party to a murder, do you?
You're not worried a bit about the judge, and you know it, Richard. You're thinking of that $500.
Well, is that bad? 5 bills will buy a lot of entertainment. You can have a lot of joy on $500. Don't knock it. Don't sneer at it.
Well, I suppose I might just as well get Mike to take me home. I should have known that you'd get a better offer. You always do. Mike!
Yes, Miss Callahan?
Well, Miss Callahan, I'm afraid I owe you an apology.
Oh, no, Judge. I can't very well blame you. If my friend Richard is so crazy about that money.
Judge, I got word for you. I can't take the assignment.
But I have your word, Mr. Rogue.
Well, I wouldn't want you to break your word with anybody else, Richard. Oh, no. Are you ready, Mike?
You can shove off, Mike. I'm taking Miss Callahan home.
Well, okay by me.
I'm really sorry, Judge, but...
Now, look, you two youngsters, there's no point in having a disagreement over this. Why don't you just stay here until the rest of the guests leave? They're beginning to leave now. Then, Mr. Rogue, you can take Miss Callahan home and come back.
That would leave you alone for about an hour.
There's only one entrance to this place. That's my private elevator. I'll give you the key. You can lock it as you leave. No one can possibly get up here.
Oh, I don't want to cause all that trouble.
Oh, it'll only be a little while, baby.
I hope you'll do this favor for me, Miss Callahan. I need Mr. Rogue's moral support tonight. Even at my age, I feel that I'm too young to die.
Betty and I hung around for another hour until all the guests either walked or were helped from the cocktail party. Then the judge and I went through the penthouse like acid goes through cotton. We looked under everything that was raised from the floor and behind everything that stood a foot high. Then we turned on the floodlights and searched the area surrounding the penthouse. Then the roof. There was nobody there. The judge was alone when Betty and I rode his private elevator and locked it with a foolproof lock before we got into my car and headed for her place. Betty was annoyed, and that ride home was as romantic as a tub full of wet wash. But she'd been annoyed before, and I wasn't worried. I left her at her apartment and fiddle-footed out to my car. I opened the car door, bent to get in. Oh! Lightning struck me in my ear. I heard the thunderbolts rocketing past and latched onto one. For a wild ride through the firmament. Stars kept exploding in my face, but I hung on until I saw my home away from home. Oh, good old Cloud 8. I let go, dropped an eon or two, and landed as softly as a smoke ring. I didn't open my eyes for a moment.
Chiefy, wake up! You're home!
Oh, hello, Igor.
I didn't think you were ever going to get here, Rogie. I was worried.
Where have I been?
I saw you go by here a couple of centuries ago. You went right past. I saw you way upstairs knocking at the pearly gates. But they wouldn't let you in.
Igor, this isn't... Oh, tell me that this isn't...
Oh, no, Chiefy. You're way north of there, and you're alive.
Oh, I'm glad to know that. What happened?
Somebody knocked you out of the park, Rogie, and then you went for an automobile ride, and then...
Oh, I gotta get out of here.
Oh, yes, you do.
Rogie?
No.
It's 9:30 at Emmett. Over you go, Chiefy.
All right, Igor. Give me a shove.
So long, Chiefy. See you next week.
Hello, Urban. What are you doing?
I'm trying to get these handcuffs off you.
Oh, where are we?
We're in the hills above Mulholland Drive. Somebody brought you up here, chloroformed you, and handcuffed you to this tree with your own handcuffs. You need a bodyguard, Rogie.
How did you find me?
Oh, I got a phone call telling me where you were, to bring a file. Stand still or I'll leave you here.
Oh, okay. Who did it?
I'm waiting for you to tell me that.
Oh, I don't get it.
Somebody wanted you out of the way for a while, Rogie. Now, do you want to tell me what you're mixed up in?
I wasn't on a case, and I... Ooh, careful. Oh!
There. Now, you'll have to get a new chain for your bracelets, but anyway, you're unharnessed from that tree.
Look, Urban, I was supposed to be bodyguarding Judge Colin Baker last night.
Bodyguarding that crook? Why?
Well, he got a death threat and a note found on his serving table during a cocktail party.
Go on.
Yeah, somebody promised to kill him within 24 hours.
What'd you leave him for?
I took Betty Callahan home. Somebody must have followed me when I left the judge's penthouse. They knocked me out as I left Betty.
Oh, maybe we'd better check on the judge's health. Maybe that note wasn't kidding. How do you feel?
Woozy.
You can hang your head out the window on the way back. We'd better see whether your client needs a bodyguard or an undertaker.
My head was full of feathers and my hands felt heavy on my arms. My mouth was lined with brown blotting paper and my shoes were full of lead. I wasn't feeling very well as I got in Urban's official sedan and headed for the penthouse where I'd left Judge Colin Baker. My head ached like a broken heart until I took a couple of pills from Urban's first aid kit. And by the time we pulled up in front of the office building, I felt like I had a chance at living if I wanted to, and I decided I wanted to. The private penthouse elevator was still locked, just as I'd left it, and that made me glad. We entered it.
Maybe we should have called before we took this trip.
No, I want to see the old boy. I owe him an apology, if he's still alive.
How could he be dead unless somebody else had a key to this elevator?
Well, they didn't. The only other key is on the judge's key ring. He told me that.
Then what are you worried about?
I'm not worried. I just hate to give him back those nice, crisp C notes, that's all. I hope he's up. Well, this is it.
Oh, good Lord.
Well, the judge will never be any deader.
Blue in the face. He's been strangled, Rogie.
We'll continue our story in just a moment. First, a word to the ladies. It's long been acknowledged that fragrance and charm go hand in hand. But unpleasant hair and scalp odors can banish charm in a hurry. By using Fitch's saponified coconut oil shampoo regularly, you can keep your hair flower fresh and fragrant. That's because Fitch's saponified shampoo makes billows of fragrant lather that floats away dirt, oily film, and displeasing odors from the hair. Then the lather rinses away easily and completely. You see, Fitch's saponified coconut oil shampoo contains its own special patented rinsing agent. This rinsing agent works right with the plain rinse water to assure you that your hair will be sparkling, radiant with all its natural color highlights. And there's no danger that your hair can offend others with unpleasant scalp odors, for Fitch's saponified shampoo leaves it dewy fresh and fragrant. Next time, ask for Fitch, F-I-T-C-H, Fitch's saponified coconut oil shampoo. Now back to Dick Powell as Private Investigator Richard Rogue in Rogue's Gallery.
Maybe I was surprised when I saw Judge Colin Baker looking up at me from the floor of his living room. I'm not sure. I had a hunch. Don't ask me why. I just had a hunch that he was dead when Urban brought me out of that stupor up there above Mulholland Drive. Judge Baker's face was as blue as a policeman's coat as he lay there, and his eyes were staring, wide open. Urban and I walked over to him.
He's been strangled, Rogie.
Yeah, looks like it. Huh. Any marks on his throat?
No marks. Looks like there was a struggle, though. Table kicked over.
How could anybody get in here? That elevator was locked. There's no other entrance.
What are you trying to do? Tell me this guy's not dead?
No, he's dead, all right, but how could he be strangled? Cigarette, Urban?
No, thanks, Rogie. So, he was murdered, wasn't he?
Yeah, well.
That calls for the medical examiner.
Well, I don't get it. There was nobody here when I left. There's been nobody here since. There's a peculiar odor in here. Smell it?
No. Sit down, Rogie, while I look around. There's been a murder. You're mixed up in it, and I want to talk with you.
Oh, you think I killed him? I didn't know him that well. Wasn't even mad at him. Hey, what's that?
A check. A check for $2,500 made out to the victim and signed by Mary Miller. Was she here last night?
Yeah, she was here. And she didn't like the judge. But I never heard of a dame her age doing a human fly act.
Maybe she had a key to the joint.
But she didn't. Believe me, she didn't.
Where's the phone?
No, it's in the bedroom.
Well, I'm going to use it. Wait here, Rogue.
There was a peculiar odor in that room, a faintly familiar odor, but I couldn't place it. My poor old beat-up mind was whirling a million revolutions a minute and getting no place. And then I remembered the note the judge received. It had mentioned an anniversary. So I decided not to wait. Instead, I took that long elevator ride and grabbed a cab for the library.
May I help you?
Oh, yes, I want to see the files on the Gotham City newspapers for the last 10 years.
All right, sir. It's going to take me some time to get them out of the storeroom. Any specific date?
Yes, I would like to see copies of the editions 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10 years ago today.
All right, sir. If you'll just have a chair. Are you sure you'll feel all right? You look ill.
Oh, I always look like this, thank you. Just get me the papers, please. They're mighty important. Confidentially, I think they're going to solve a murder. The librarian got me the papers. I went to work on them. Gotham City was the city where Judge Colin Baker had made his reputation as a hanging judge. My hunch was as strong as a bride's coffee, and it paid off. In the issue for 7 years ago that day, I found the name of Judge Colin Baker on the front page. A man he had sentenced to the chair for murder had been executed, screaming his innocence. Within an hour after the electricity had torn through the body of this man, Harold Michaels, the real killer had confessed. And this was the anniversary of that legal murder. I called Betty Callahan at her paper. She wasn't there. She was covering the police investigation of Judge Baker's murder. I took a cab back to the judge's penthouse.
Oh, isn't this terrible, Richard? If it hadn't been for me insisting on you taking me home, the judge would have been alive.
Or I would have been dead.
Where have you been, Rogie? I told you to stay here.
I've been out doing your work for you, Urban. I got the motive for this murder.
You have, Richard?
Now, what did the medical examiner have to say, Urban?
Oh, you know the doc. He just did a little muttering about cyanide. Won't give any official opinion until he's had a chance to analyze the contents of the body. What's your theory on the motive?
Well, Hey, Betty, where are you going?
I'm with the working press. Mike and I are going to get some pictures.
All right.
I can hear that massive intellect of yours ticking, Rogie. And I recognize that far-away look in your eyes. Now, what goes? Don't stand there like a dummy. If you've got any theories, let me in on them.
Cyanide, huh? Look, Urban, this place is air-conditioned, isn't it?
The penthouse is. The building isn't.
Yeah? I'll be back in a minute.
Hey, where are you going?
I'll be back in a minute. I want to check that theory of mine. Cyanide. That word brought back that dainty smell I'd noticed in the apartment when Urban and I had discovered the judge's body. Cyanide. The odor of cyanide is brought out by cigarette smoke. I had been smoking when I detected it. The pieces of this murder were falling in place like a well-trained chorus. I found the ladder that led to the top of the penthouse, where the air conditioning machinery was located, ran up the ladder, gun in hand, and there he was, the murderer, just lifting an earthenware crock from inside the housing of the intake fan on the air conditioning system. Put it down, Mike.
Make another move toward me, rogue. I'll let you have this crock full of acid right in your face.
What good'll that do you, Mike? You can't get away.
Another 5 minutes and I would have been home. Free. How'd you figure me, rogue? Why'd you have to horn in?
I looked up the Gotham newspapers for 7 years ago today, the day Judge Baker executed a man named Harold Michaels, an innocent man. Was he your brother? Your name's Michaels, isn't it?
He was my father. And I executed the man who executed him. In his own private gas chamber. Just like they do it at Quentin. I waited a long time for the chance.
Look, Mike, I'm not arguing right or wrong with you, but now you're a killer. And I'm going to take you in. Put that crock down.
No, I don't think so, Rogue. I'll just stand here. I have to think.
Just for my information, Mike, how did you delay the action of the gas until you knew the judge would be alone?
I thought of everything. I didn't want to hurt anybody but Baker. I hung the cyanide pellet over the acid on a piece of cotton cord. I tested it 6 times. You know, it took a drop of acid 3 hours to eat through the cord. I'm glad I killed him, Rogue.
I'm coming after you, Mike.
I'm not waiting, Rogue. I don't like the gas chamber.
Mike, don't come back here.
I'm not sorry for anything. Tell him that was my payoff line, will you, Rogue? So long.
No, don't, Mike. Don't jump. Mike's plan for murdering the man who'd caused his father's execution was as near perfect as any murder will ever be. While the guests were having whoopee at the cocktail party, he put that jar of acid in the air conditioning intake, hung the cyanide pellet over it, and was back at the party, leaving that note before anybody missed him. When he found that I was going to return to spend the night with the judge, he had to knock me out, get me out of the way for at least 5 hours. 3 hours before the cyanide fell into its acid bath, and 2 more hours which it took for the air conditioning system to completely change the air in the penthouse. Oh, it's clever, I thought. Yes, it looks like I did it again. Had a narrow escape, though, but that didn't bother me. I drive every day in the Los Angeles traffic. You know what I mean? This is Dick Powell again, ladies and gentlemen. Hope you enjoyed our story tonight. Ray Buffum wrote it. Leith Stevens composed and conducted the music, and Dee Engelbach produced and directed. Be with us again next week, will you? We have a story for you about a black-eyed senorita from Argentina, a Latin-type corpse, and a mysterious gold piece. We call it Latin type.
Laugh a while, let a song be your style. Use Fitch shampoo. Don't despair, use your head, save your hair. Use Fitch shampoo. Laugh a while, let a song be your style. Use Fitch shampoo. Laugh a while, let a song be your style. Use Fitch shampoo. Don't despair, use your head, save your hair. Use Fitch shampoo.
After and between Fitch shampoos, you can keep your hair shining and manageable by using a few...
Welcome back. Well, on the bright side, we found out that Rogue leaving the apartment did not lead to the judge's murder. As Rogue expressed, the only thing that would have happened differently was that he would have been killed as well. And of course, we have Gerald Moore back in the role of the murderer, and I was thinking about that last week. It's an episode of Rogues Gallery, and Gerald Moore is not the heavy. He's not even in the episode. But thankfully, balance has been restored. All right, well now, as promised, I'm going to share with you about the shows that we are going to be adding on Tuesdays during the 2011-2012 season. Rogues Gallery will take us through the rest of this season and a couple weeks into the next one. Shows that we'll do will be Candy Matson, The Adventures of Christopher London, the old-time radio Poirot shows from the 1940s, and that will be replaced by Pete Kelly's Blues, then Leonidas Witherall, and finally, The Fat Man. So to repeat, Candy Matson, Christopher London, Poirot, Pete Kelly's Blues, Leonidas Witherall, and The Fat Man. So a lot of shows will be parking in on Tuesdays next season. All right, and we do have one listener comment, simple best podcast around. Well, thank you so much and appreciate all of your support. Be sure to follow us on Twitter at Radio Detectives and give us a call, 208-991-4783. And support the show with your donation during the show support campaign, which runs between now and September 10th. Go to support.greatdetectives.net. But we'll be back next week, another episode of Rogues Gallery, and tomorrow it's Let George Do It. Well, I want to begin with a listener support campaign. A special thank you. Ian sends along a very nice gift and says, thank you for all your diligent work. I hope this drive allows you to spend more time on podcasting and writing. The gift of the Radio Archive certificate would be most welcome. Thank you. And thanks so much, Ian. And we went ahead and we sent a gift certificate to radioarchives.com, sufficient to buy any of their great digital download sets. And we also sent access to our premium site to Ian. You can support the show, too, at support.greatdetectives.net. Now, that kind of segues into today's program. I actually first heard today's episode on a Radio Archive set, high-fidelity audio, and this was, of course, their version, which was the syndicated version of Let George Do It that aired up in Canada, not today's, which includes the commercials. But when I heard it, I could hardly wait to bring it to you, and so I hope you really enjoy it. Here now is today's episode, The Anthill.
Personal notice. Danger's my stock and trade. If the job's too tough for you to handle, you got a job for me, George Valentine. Write full details.
Standard Oil Company of California, on behalf of independent Chevron gas stations and standard stations throughout the West, invites you to Let George Do It. The Anthill, another adventure of George Valentine.
Dear Mr. Valentine, I am without doubt the ugliest man in the world.
Hey, wait a minute. Who is this?
However, I need your help or the man standing beside me will go crazy. Because, Mr. Valentine,
Riley, it's you, isn't it? Lieutenant Riley.
Yes, it's me, and I'm the one going crazy.
All right, have it your own way. Only what are you talking about?
Valentine, I've got a client for you. A little ugly stumblebum wants your help. A slot machine repairman, no less. He needs help, or at least he won't help me unless somebody helps him. Only he won't trust the police
I don't blame him. You make so much sense.
Okay, then, let's say I need your help. Sure, this little guy isn't much, but the idea
Riley,
is...
hold it, will you? You said this guy's dying?
Yeah, police hospital.
The doctor gives him a day or two at the best. Can't operate, can't stop the infection.
From what, Lieutenant?
Oh, gunshot wounds, Miss Brooks. One gun, but all 6 shells. Happened in a dark alley. Whoever it was didn't want to miss him, I guess.
That little man must be tough.
Maybe. Or lucky or unlucky. He's one of those guys who's born to end up at the bottom of the pile, Valentine.
Then why are you so interested in him?
It's just possible that he can steer us all the way to the top of the pile. His name's Trailer. I told you he was the littlest shrimp in the slot machine racket. The repairman. Well, we've never found out who the big shrimp is.
I see. I worm my way into the man's confidence, and then maybe he spills. Is that it? Blows the whole racket apart.
No. You just help the little guy find his girl.
Betty, that's her name. I was going to see her tonight.
Betty who, Trailer? What's the rest of her name?
She's beautiful. I'm not, but she is. I'm just her bill, she said. But you don't believe it either, do you?
Trailer, can you understand me?
There's nobody in the world to believe it. You got to be careful. You can't trust people. You got to test them and test them and test them. And then you can't trust them because they're all the same.
What are you talking about, friend? The racket?
I won't tell you anything. I won't. Why should I?
All right. Well, I take it easy.
Ants. Ants is what I'm talking about. Ants.
Huh?
You ever catch ants? Climbing on top of each other, higher and higher, higher. Like ants. Did you? They all got to get ahead. Oh. I'm down at the bottom, and I'm happy. I'm happy.
Oh, sure, you're different. You're happy.
That's right.
Who shot you?
Ants. You can test people to see if they're ants, you know. Put honey in front of them. See if they took themselves. Only dying's not bad. Why did you ask me? I don't know anything. I'm just Betty.
Hey, Trailer.
Fine Betty.
Hey, look, Trailer. Yes?
Betty.
Guess you can have him back for a while. Itinerant master mechanic, fixes slot machines, drifts around a lot. Riley, I'm willing to bet he doesn't know anything that'll ever help you pry open the big time.
Is that so? Well, just let me show you. Look in here.
Oh, you mean the tall, skinny man over there?
Yeah, Wilson, the highest-priced legal beagle in the state.
Waiting to see if anybody off stage needs defending, huh?
That's it. The watchdog. Ever alert. Just in case the police have a squealer who might stop worrying about the girlfriend and climb out of his delirium long enough to sing.
Sing? What's this? What's all this, Lieutenant? Somebody singing?
That's right, Mr. Wilson. Trailer in there tells me you own all the slot machines in this state.
Yes, of course. It's just a sideline, though. Rather a bother, particularly when I don't live in this town.
Here on business, Mr. Wilson?
I beg your pardon.
Mr. Valentine and Miss Brooks.
How do you do?
Charmed. No, I've been retained by a client, Mr. Valentine.
Oh, who's that?
The Black Company. Riley here knows about him.
Oh, yeah, sure. Out-of-town corporation. Manufactures will-o'-the-wisps.
Well, I'm only a lawyer. I'm not familiar.
Oh, the Black Company's quite an outfit, Valentine. Perfectly legal. Only nobody knows who runs it. But do they own the slot machines?
Well, of course not. No
do
more than I
they know who they make bank deposits for? Does this bird Trailer even know who he works for? Does anybody?
The basis of all good organization, Lieutenant, is the pyramid.
Like a spy system, huh? No one man knows enough to incriminate any of the others.
Then why are you here, Mr. Wilton? Why are you worried about this Trailer person?
I haven't really said I even know the man, have I? Or that the company I represent is interested in anything more than employees' indemnity, his accident, and so on.
Spoken like a lawyer. Riley, maybe it is possible that the best of pyramids get a little wobbly once in a while.
Huh?
Maybe it is possible that the reason Trailer in there got shot was that he found out too much about the higher-ups in the...
Yeah, hold it, wait. Yeah, hello, Lieutenant Riley.
Oh, I wanted to speak to the nurse about Bill Trailer.
Well, all right. Who's calling?
Well, just the nurse, please. The nurse on duty there.
Well, just a second. Valentine, it's a girl. Now take it, will you? You're the intern on duty, or anybody.
What's this? Misrepresentation, Lieutenant?
Here, let me have it. Hello?
Nurse?
Well, she'll be here in a second, honey. I'm the receptionist.
Well, I just wanted to find out about the patient. His name is Trailer.
Trailer. Well, wait till I get my cards here. Trailer.
Hurry up, please. Somebody said he was there, but I want to know what happened to him.
Well, we had an appendix case come in this morning.
Oh, just tell me what happened to him. What? You don't handle cases like that in the police ward.
I meant in the other ward. She hung up.
It's all right. We got the number. Call came from a phone in a bar at 1612 Commercial Lane.
The old Durfee Hill section, huh?
Yeah. It's Carter District. A 50-cent flop house or a $5,000 penthouse. It's what the harness boys call the anthill, Valentine.
The anthill, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Let's go, Brooksy.
A million people a day use that phone, my friend. Every third one tries a slug.
But, bartender, all we wanted to know
Besides,
was...
if you're whistling at a dame, where's to catch you? Maybe your boyfriend's a prize fighter. I'll take television any day.
The girl used the phone only a few minutes ago. Who was she?
Should I know? Should I watch the cash register and be a bulldog for the phone company at the same time?
All right. You don't know. Or maybe you don't want to know. I suppose you never heard of a guy named Trailer around here, either.
Trailer? No, not until the fight last night.
What fight?
Him and Louie. Who'd you think? Nice guy, that Trailer, I guess. But he'll never amount to much, mixing it up with a guy like
slow
Louie.
down, will you? Slow down. Who's Louie? And what was this fight about?
About a dame, natural, classy blonde, lives up the street, name's Betty. Fight ended quick. We threw them both out.
Betty?
Sure. See what I mean about whistling at dames?
You mean this guy Louie's tough? Go on. More about Louie.
Not a price fighter, no, but a real sharp boy, just the same. Working his way up for a good outfit. Makes collections for the black company. That's slot machines to use.
Oh, fellow employed, huh? Only Louie's higher up in the pile. He makes collections from guys like you.
From me? You're crazy.
Sure. What's the rest of his name? Louie what?
Ask me no questions, I'll tell you no lies. Good day, friend.
Brooksy, this is where your job begins.
I said I'm sorry, sister. Wrong place. No Betty here. Now beat it, will you?
Hi, lady. Find your party?
Well, no, this gentleman...
Look, what is this, a Census Bureau?
Back of flowers, Max. Sign here.
What? Oh, look, all of you go someplace.
I haven't got all day. Sign here and don't keep the pen.
All right. Yeah, now clear out.
A dime.
People send you flowers?
Come on in. I don't know where Betty is. What do you want?
Well, just to see her. Betty sings down at the nightclub, I found out. She mentioned to me once about a job, and I thought maybe dancing or selling cigarettes might...
Oh, great unemployed, huh? Look, you gotta be a jerk not to get along in this world, sister. What's the matter? No angles?
Oh, I'm just new in town. Gee, that's a pretty box, isn't it? You gonna open them?
How do you like that? Dated yesterday. Now, there's a florist who's gonna fall right out of business. Betty gets them like that all the time, sister. She knows her way around. Nothing better than the best.
Gee, I met Betty's boyfriend, too, once. Trailer or something.
That's what he told you? Boyfriend. There's a laugh.
Well, sure he wasn't dressed so good.
Oh, hopeful Harry. She can do better than him any day.
I didn't know. You mean you're the one she... Say, roses.
Look, I'm Betty's brother. My name is Louie.
Oh.
Now, where did you say you met Betty?
Gee, has a girl got to relieve all of her privacy? We was only in the beauty shop. I was seeing about a tent. Well, don't look at me that way. She spoke to me because I complimented her on a corsage she said her boyfriend gave her.
Boyfriend? Look at that, sister. Those aren't just roses. A wristwatch wrapped around them, you see?
Holy smoke.
I'm an admirer, see? Guy she hasn't even met. Told you she was good looking. You ought to hear what they say about her singing. We're going places, her and me.
You don't have to hate my wrist about it.
So go be unemployed. Beat it, will you?
Dear Betty,
I look forward to meeting you.
What's that?
I'm on the level, and I don't mean just opposite your eyes when I say I'm not a masher, and won't you please telephone me at Durfee Hills?
Hey, give me that.
Hey, let go. Just a card with the roses, that's all.
Come on, get out of here.
Gosh, I'm not going to try to beat Betty's time or anything.
I'll say you're not.
I never heard that name anyway, Mr. Black or... Black!
Valentine, of course, she's all right. You talked to her yourself, did you?
Sure, Brooksy read me the note she'd seen on the flowers, but
We had a man watching him. After Miss Brooks left that place, this Louis fella took off in the opposite direction like a flying duck. But my man lost him. Now, will you please clear up what you've been doing?
That Durfee Hill number in the flower note. It's a new number, Riley. Private listing and installed only a couple of days ago from somebody from out of town who just rented this place.
What place?
The fanciest penthouse in the whole section. Hey, Riley, people really look like ants from up here.
You mean...
Sure, I'm in the place. There was a loose hinge on the service door and nobody inside.
You've got the loose hinge, my friend. Don't you realize it was a Mr. Black who sent those flowers?
Oh, Riley, add 2 and 2, will you? Nobody knows who owns the slot machines, who runs the Black Company. And yet a mysterious Mr. Black shows up in town, a man nobody's seen, not even the janitor downstairs.
Trailer's girl, Betty, she must have seen him.
No, remember, he just wanted to meet her. Probably had seen her at the nightclub or something. But that was Black's mistake if he wanted to stay incognito, giving a girl his telephone number. Because now here I am with $10,000 in my pocket.
But what? What'd you say?
Sure. Must be collection time in the 3 lemon business. About 2 seconds ago, a delivery boy hands me an envelope at the door. Inside was an accounting sheet for all the slot machines on the south side and proceeds for the past month.
Well,
Riley, I figured out who's the man at the top of the anthill. Don't ask me how long it'll last or why it works this way. But right now, Riley, that man seems to be me.
We'll return to tonight's adventure of George Valentine in just a moment. Anyone who has done a lot of driving in hot desert country knows what happens to car engines there every day. As soon as the ignition is turned off and circulation stops, engine parts get so hot they can literally fry an ordinary oil. But just ask desert motorists how they lick this problem. They'll tell you more people prefer RPM motor oil than any other brand. And here's the reason RPM is first choice where driving's toughest. It's specially compounded to keep a protective oil film on every inch of metal. Even when engine parts get super hot, RPM contains other compounds that prevent carbon formations, that stop corrosion, and keep rings working freely. It's the best engine insurance you can buy. So why not try in your own car the oil that's first choice where driving's toughest? Ask for RPM motor oil at standard stations and independent Chevron gas stations where they say and mean we take better care of your car. And now back to tonight's adventure of George Valentine. You go to help Lieutenant Riley because there's a man dying in the police hospital who might tell what he knows about the slot machine racket, provided somebody helps him find his girl, Betty. Well, so far you haven't found Betty, though you have discovered that there's someone else in her life. Someone a little more successful than Trailer, a man who calls himself Mr. Black, who owns the slot machines, whose identity is a secret even from his own employees. Only if your name is George Valentine, now it's you who occupy Mr. Black's apartment. It's a dangerous game, and no one realizes that better than Claire Brooks. Down at the police hospital now, she seems unable to help.
I don't know anything. I tell you, I don't know.
If you could just remember why you and Louis had that fight last night in the bar. Was it over Betty?
Betty?
Or is something wrong in the business? In the Black Company?
Find Betty. Just find Betty.
No, of course not, Brooksy. We've gone way past trailer now. We're in the middle of the ants, the scramblers.
The police have the apartment surrounded now,
Well,
George.
tell them to keep out and lay low unless I whistle for help.
But, George...
Angel will never find out who fired those shots in the trailer or who runs this racket unless we ride right along with the gang.
You'll ride yourself right into a funeral notice. Sooner or later, the person who rented that apartment will come back
I said, don't worry, will you, Brooksy, as long as I can...
What? Go on, George.
Well, what do you people wash those shirts in anyway? It's cement mix either. The collars come back with ground glass on the edge.
George, what's the matter?
Well, just don't use so much starch, that's all. Hello.
I didn't mean to interrupt. The door was open.
All right, then shut it and come in. Now, what is it? What do you want?
Don't get sore, boss. Now, take it easy.
Your name's Louie, isn't it?
Yes, sir. Sure it is. How'd you know?
You fit the description.
Look, I know I'm not supposed to be here. I know I should have just sent the stuff up by messenger the way we always do, wherever the point is.
Oh, so that's it, huh? You're a collector.
Durfee Hill and East Side, sir.
You brought some money. All right, let's have it.
Here. The accounting sheet's right on top. I had all those figures in my head. It's a trick, I taught myself.
Right, Paul.
I know it's not healthy to come up here and find out who you are like this,
Relax,
but
relax, will you? Wow.
Yeah, I knew you wouldn't mind when you saw that. It's almost double last month.
$23,500. What did you do? Fix the machine so they pay in bubble gum instead of jackpots?
Oh, no, sir. No, I didn't touch them. But I've been in there giving them the old boost. You know, talking it up with the bartender.
A real climber in the business, aren't you, Louie? Now, what's this really about, Buster? How did you make so much money this month?
Well, the truth of the
What
matter
happened to Trailer, the repairman?
I don't know what you mean, happened.
Who shot him?
Boss, listen, he was cheating you. Did you know that? Did you? I can prove he was.
He was what?
Hold him out. Jack up the setting on the machines and then split the rake off with bartenders. That's how he did it. You must have heard the same thing from other districts. He floated around all of them, didn't he?
You know, it's getting too complicated for me.
Now, wait a minute. Wait, listen, that's how I build up my total for the month, by catching him at it and stopping it.
Yeah, you earned the Silver Star, all right.
Look, who you going to call? Listen to the rest of what I got.
Buster, I'm going to see a man about pinning a medal on you.
But I didn't do it. I didn't empty any gun into him.
Well, everything happens at once.
You want me to get it for you, boy?
No, I'll get it. Go mix yourself a drink or something.
Don't mind if I do. I know who it is anyway.
Huh? This is great. Oh.
Hello. I guess you're the man, huh?
Are you the girl?
Don't be funny. I mean, well, after all the notes you've been sending me with the flowers.
Oh, sure. Come in, Betty.
Thanks. Say, you live all right, don't you?
I hope to. You know, you're not so easy to find, Betty. I've been wanting to meet you for some time now.
Yeah, I got the idea. Do you always use that whirlwind stuff, flowers and presents on a girl, Mr. whatever your name is, Black?
Hey, slow down. Take your coat off.
Sure. Huh? You wanted to meet me. You saw me in the nightclub and you heard my singing and you wanted to meet me.
Well, now, who wouldn't? You're very beautiful.
Do a girl good to be known she associates with you.
No comment.
Any girl would break her neck to get up here. She'd give her eye teeth to walk up close to you like this.
Hey, what's the matter?
You dirty...
Hey, sis, cut it out. Cut it out, sis.
Let go.
You said you'd be nice. Now stop it. Will you cut it out? I don't know what's the matter with the boss. Honest.
Suppose you both be quiet.
She said she was coming up here to see you. She promised you would. You know, I told her what a great guy you are.
I said, shut up, killer.
What?
Now, look, boss, this is my sister. Say, one of the greatest kids in the world.
I know. A guy could go places if his sister associated with a big shot like me.
What did you say? You called me...
Betty, you came up here to find out about Trailer, didn't you? To slap my face and ask the big shot which one of his hired hands was responsible for your boyfriend being down there in the hospital. Wasn't that it?
He's not a boyfriend. She's 10 times as good as him. He's only been hanging around a couple of months.
Sure, he's not an eager beaver like you, Buster. He wouldn't try to use his own sister to get him ahead in the world.
No, they just thought about it.
In that bar the other night?
Oh, yeah, but that was all.
I told him to stay away, and he got me, and it took me
one at a time, will you?
Honestly.
You live with the ants. Don't you know what they're like yet? Or was that what you saw in Trailer? That he was a little different from the scramblers?
He was a dope. He was stealing, holding out.
You want to bet it was you who was holding out from collections, Louie, and he caught you at it?
Boss,
so long give a chance to get rid of two birds with one stone. Get in the boss's good graces and cover your own tracks by being the guy.
You said you didn't see Trailer after that fight.
Well, all I know, Betty, is that your brother said something to me a minute ago about a gun being emptied into Trailer.
Huh?
Well, it so happens he was shot 6 times. Only how could you know about that little specific thing, Louie, unless you were the guy?
Look, everything I've done is for you. It's for the good of the company. I'm looking ahead all the time. See, I want
to... Did it if you like.
What? Hey, who's that bird? Got a gun?
Shut up. Hello, Mr. Wilton. Party's over, huh?
Yes. Yes, the party's over, I'm afraid, and besides, it's making too much noise.
Next door?
No, I've been in the back of a wardrobe you overlooked.
Oh, sure. Well, I didn't think it could last. It never did make sense that such a careful setup as this apartment wouldn't have...
Wouldn't have me. Yes, me. That's the prize.
Yeah. So's Louis. So's Betty.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Look, who is this guy?
Now, if the three of you will
I'll
just...
take care of him.
Down that gun, Buster.
Don't worry. He can't get away with anything.
Louis, stop it. You're making a mistake.
Ambitious to the end. Couldn't resist trying to make one last impression on you, could he, Mr. Valentine?
Mr. What?
Yes, Betty. I'm afraid I'm the Mr. Black who's been so anxious to meet you. Yeah, it's too bad. Things couldn't have worked out better for us.
But if you're Mr. Black...
The great organizer.
The best of pyramids totter once in a while. I was here to make my own collections this time. I thought it was about time for a visit to South America. So if you'll just hand over my money...
Why don't you come and get it?
You've caused enough trouble already, Valentine.
Sure. Come on. Shoot some more people.
I'm warning you.
No. It's the only way you're going to get out of here.
Valentine,
Stop that gun.
Well, thanks, Riley. Mr. Slot Machine King, see what the sound of those shots brought you? 3 lemons. And that was it, Trailer. A gun test proved that Louis shot you.
Yeah?
Why? Well, ambition, I guess. Cover his own mistakes, get him good with a big boss. Can you understand me, Trailer? Can you understand what I'm saying?
Yes, ants. All scrambling around. That's all Louis was.
Sure. That's all Wilton is, too. But the girl's different.
I think she'd like to see you, Trailer.
Yeah. Yeah, we found Betty. She's a nice girl.
Yes, I know.
Since when?
What?
I said, since when did you know? I mean, that she was the kind of a girl who's a little different. Who might have really meant it when she said she liked an ugly little guy like you.
Mr. Valentine, I'm very tired.
Wilton isn't kidding anybody. I just want you to know that I know that, Trailer.
I've begun to guess it.
His biggest mistake was trying to take over the slot machine empire tonight. Like the rest, he couldn't resist the opportunity.
George.
Think back, Angel. Wilton's tall and skinny. Would he have ever written a note to Betty, just an ordinary-sized girl, saying, I'm on the level, and I don't mean just opposite your eyes?
No, of course he wouldn't.
He's only a lawyer. A rat trying to grab what he can off a sinking ship. But Valentine, I had no idea.
I'll say it for you, Trailer. Wilton didn't ever own the slot machines like he claimed he did at the last minute. And he wasn't the Mr. Black in the notes. No, they'd have to be a short man, probably. A little guy.
Yeah. A little guy.
Like maybe a man who'd made such a success out of not trusting anybody that he couldn't believe a girl liked him. He had to test her by making her think a big shot was after her. To see if she'd drop him and run for the honey. He was in town for the collections anyway. And to nose around the way he always did, inspecting the anthill he built, while looking like a repairman.
You mean Trailer here is really Mr. Black?
Yeah, Brooksy. What would you have done, Trailer, if Betty had dropped you and chased after you, Mr. Black, the very way her brother wanted her to?
I would have killed her. No, I wouldn't have. I don't...
I know, Buster. It's pretty ironic. You kept your identity so secret. You did so well. That what happened? You got shot by a guy whose only ambition was to get in good with the boss. Make a big, fine impression on you. Now you still want to talk to Betty while you can, Mr. Black?
No. She's... Leave her out of our anthill.
George, maybe Trailer really wished that he could be just a repairman.
Oh, there are lots of maybes, Brooksy. Maybe he was sick of himself. Guy who climbed so high must have looked down on a lot of squirming underneath.
But, George,
It's all in the way you look at an anthill. It's a city of workers, too, and they help each other. They don't climb over each other's backs or knife each other to get ahead. That's what's so wrong about the whole thing. None of those ideas Trailer had made any sense.
Crime never makes sense, does it, Brooksy? Say, where's my client? Where's Riley? I wonder just how you send a bill to the police department. For services rendered?
Let's pretend you're on a weekend motoring trip. It's a bright, sunny day. Everything's fine, except it's too bright, and the eye strain is terrific. Well, you can easily avoid that discomfort for your eyes. Just stop in tomorrow at an independent Chevron gas station or a standard station and ask for Polaroid day glasses. Ordinary sunglasses merely dim reflected glare, but Polaroid day glasses are scientifically made to actually blot out dazzling reflections. The kind of glare that bounces off highways, water, beaches, and snow to hit you in the eyes. These smartly styled glasses are light and comfortable to wear. They have wide-angle coverage, and there's no obstruction of view. You can drive all day through bright weather, and Polaroid day glasses will leave your eyes feeling no strain. There's a lot of bright weather ahead, so for your own driving comfort, why not get these glasses right away? Buy them at any standard station or independent Chevron gas station, where they say and mean, we take better care of your car. Tonight's adventure of George Valentine has been brought to you by Standard Oil Company of California on behalf of independent Chevron gas stations and standard stations throughout the West. Robert Bailey is starred as George with Virginia Gregg as Brooksy. Let George Do It is written by David Victor and Jackson Gillis and directed by Don Clark. Wally Mayer appears as Lieutenant Riley. Pat McGeehan was heard as Trailer. Bill Boucher as Wilton. Gene Bates as Betty. Jim Nusser as the bartender. And Anthony Barrett as Louie. The music is composed and presented by Eddie Dunstetter. Your announcer, John Heaston. Listen again next week, same time, same station, to Let George Do It. This is the Mutual Don Lee Broadcasting System.
Welcome back. Well, this remains one of my favorite episodes. This just takes so many amazing twists and turns right to the ending. I think the writers were pretty clever, keeping us distracted and focused on other goings-on up in the big apartment that we didn't even suspect the repairman. Plus the fine writing that went into this episode. It really was just a pleasure to listen to. And this episode has, of course, with the intelligence of the script, has gone along with a lot of other episodes. Bill comments regarding the episode from a couple weeks back, The Chair of Humanities. At last, Virginia Gregg comes into her own as Brooksy and Let George Do It. After languishing in Francis Robinson's shadow, Gregg finally asserts herself in the Chair of Humanities, demonstrating unusual toughness and emotional insight. It certainly helped that the script for The Chair of Humanities was among the most intellectually rich of the series, but there's no doubt that it is Gregg's forceful performance that gives the episode its surprising depth and texture. Bill says, thanks for letting us share the ride, Adam. Well, thanks so much, Bill. Appreciate the comment, and definitely a strong performance for Brooksy. The one thing that's somewhat amazing about Let George Do It is that it was strictly a West Coast series when it was in first run. So the eastern part of the United States didn't know what it was missing. Just a phenomenal show. We have a couple comments on Podcast Alley. Best podcast ever, and love it. Well, thank you so much for all your comments. I appreciate your support. We will be back tomorrow, September 1st, with Sherlock Holmes. Well, before we do get started, I want to encourage you to support our listener support campaign efforts. Send in your donation to help support the show at support.greatdetectives.net. All donations of $7 or more receive access to our premium site with a great selection of the extras that we do for both the Great Detectives and for Dragnet. And as a special thank you gift for those giving $20 or more, we'll send along a special thank you gift of a digital download of a radio drama we won't be able to bring you on the show. And depending on the level of support, that can include Perry Mason, Poirot. More information is available over at support.greatdetectives.net. All right, well, now it's time for today's adventure of Sherlock Holmes, The Adventure of the Innocent Murderess.
Kreml Hair Tonic and Kreml Shampoo present the new adventures of Sherlock Holmes, starring Nigel Bruce as Dr. Watson and Tom Conway as Sherlock Holmes. Well, once again, it's Monday night and time for our weekly visit with that excellent host and dean of storytellers, Dr. Watson. I'm sure he's waiting for us in his study, so let's join him, shall we? Good evening, Dr. Watson.
Good evening, Mr. Bell.
I see you have the old black tin dispatch box out again, Dr. Watson. You've been refreshing your memory on tonight's new Sherlock Holmes adventure?
Yes, boy, and while I was going over my notes on the case, I came across this. It played a prominent part in the story that I'm going to tell you.
It's a platinum cross. Is that some kind of medal, Dr. Watson?
It is, Mr. Bell, it is. It's the Cross of St. Hilarious, one of the highest decorations of the small European kingdom of Grosnia.
Presented to Sherlock Holmes, I suppose?
Yes, Mr. Bell, though before he was awarded it, the two of us went through one of the strangest and in some ways the most embarrassing experiences of our entire career. I call the story The Adventure of the Innocent Murderess.
Sounds exciting. We'll be ready for it in just a moment, Dr. Watson. Men, in summer when you go without your hat, does your hair get dry, wild, and unruly looking? After a swim, does it feel sticky and stringy? Then remember, Kreml Hair Tonic keeps dry, wild, sun-baked hair looking perfectly groomed throughout the hottest, stickiest day, as if your barber had just combed it. You see, Kreml contains a special combination of hair grooming ingredients which is found in no other hair tonic. This wonderful, natural-looking hairdressing has just enough light oils to keep hair neatly groomed with an attractive, healthy-looking luster. Yet Kreml never leaves the hair looking or feeling greasy or sticky. It never leaves any unpleasant odor. Kreml always looks and feels clean on both hair and scalp. It leaves the scalp feeling so cool, refreshed, and alive. A recent survey showed Kreml Hair Tonic was preferred among America's most prosperous and successful men, among top-flight executives who know the importance of handsomely groomed hair. Be sure to try it, men. Kreml, Kreml Hair Tonic. Now, Dr. Watson, how about the new Sherlock Holmes story that you call The Adventure of the Innocent Murderess?
Well, Mr. Bell, that strange affair began on a spring afternoon at the turn of the century. It was a beautiful day, and for some hours, Holmes and I had rambled about in the park, in silence for the most part, as befits two men who know each other intimately. It was shortly after 5 when we returned to Baker Street, and I remember that as we opened the front door, Mrs. Hudson spoke to us.
Excuse me, Mr. Holmes.
Yes, Mrs. Hudson, what is it?
There's been a gentleman here asking for you, sir.
So much for our afternoon walks, Watson.
Well, is he gone, Mrs. Hudson?
Aye, sir.
Didn't you ask him in?
I did that, sir. He waited half an hour. A very restless kind of man he was, walking and stamping all the time he was here. And finally, he ups and out. And all I could say wouldn't hold him back, Mr. Holmes.
Oh, you did your best, Mrs. Hudson.
But did he leave his name?
Oh, no, Doctor. But he was a foreigner. I swear I've never seen him here before. He'll be back, I'm sure.
Thank you, Mrs. Hudson.
Aye, sir.
Were you expecting a client, Holmes?
Had I done so, chap, I would not have spent the past few hours wandering about with you in Regent's Park.
Oh, I wonder who he is.
He left us one clue to his identity.
I don't see any clue.
This pipe on the table is not one of yours.
A nice old briar with a good long stem.
Well, can you deduce anything from that?
Very little, except for the obvious fact that its owner is left-handed, is a muscular man with an excellent set of teeth, careless in his habits, and with no need to practice economy.
Oh, come, Holmes. That's a little far-fetched.
On the contrary. But I think that's our client now. Meet him on the stairs, will you, Watson?
Yes, indeed.
Now we'll have something more interesting than his pipe to study.
This way, sir. So I thank you, Mrs. Hudson.
You are Sherlock Holmes.
No, my name is Watson, Dr. Watson.
Oh, then you must be Mr. Holmes.
Since there are only 3 of us in the room, that would seem an eminently logical conclusion.
Please, do not make fun of me. I am bewildered foreigner in your country.
Oh, my friend was only joking, sir. Do sit down, won't you, Mr...
My name is Priskop. Igor Priskop. And I do not wish to sit down. It pleases me to walk as I talk. It soothes me. And I am in great need of soothment.
Mr. Priskop, I shall be delighted to give you any assistance I can. I'm only sorry that I was out when you called earlier.
I myself was desolated. But I will waste no further time in desolation. Mr. Holmes, you have in the past performed great service to my country.
And what is your country, sir, may I ask?
The kingdom of Grozny, my friend. Small in area, but great in tradition. Mr. Holmes, as Igor Priskop says, you have helped us in the past.
In a modest way, Mr. Priskop. Though your government was generous enough to award me the Medal of St. Stephen.
First class, a high honor. You were also presented with the Medal of St. Arcadu, second class, as well as that of St. Michael and the 7 subsidiary angels.
Oh, yes, I got one of those.
That one I regret to say is of slight importance.
Uh-huh.
But now, Mr. Holmes, I come to you as an emissary of Grozny and ask you for your greatest service.
As I recall, Mr. Priskop, my greatest services to Grozny were under the regime of the People's Party.
The party to which I belong.
And if our newspapers are accurate, that is the party which is now out of favor.
I do seem to remember reading something about that in the Times the other day.
I am happy to see that you are both so well informed. Let me now explain this situation to you further, my friend. There is now an international committee of powers meeting at The Hague. They are trying to decide if the royalists rightfully control Grozny
or if your party does.
That is right, Mr. Holmes. In the meanwhile, the Groznian embassy here in London is dominated by the royalists.
Unfortunate for you, I'm sure, but what do you expect my friend to do? He's hardly a politician, you know.
I have come to London to make contact with our exiles here. The embassy must not know. No one must know that Igor Priskop is in London. Mr. Holmes, my very life is in danger. For the sake of my beloved Grozny, I want you to let me stay here in Baker Street, in secret.
That is an unusual request, Mr. Priskop.
A completely impractical one, sir. There's very little room here. Very little room.
I must insist. You, Mr. Holmes, hold the Order of St. Stephen first class. You're a friend of my people. Now, you must help me. You must...
Good Lord, he's fainted. Very emotional, these foreigners.
No, Watson, no. Look at that stain on his shirt. He's been wounded. Obviously, at least one of his enemies knows that he's in London. That's why he came to us.
Oh, it's only a fresh wound in the shoulder. I'll bandage it up. I have some smelling salts here. That'll bring him round. Hand me that glass, will you, Holmes?
He's coming to of his own accord. Here you are, Mr. Priskop. Drink this.
Oh, no. No medicine. I do not believe in them.
Never mind about that. You try this.
Thanks, no. Forgive my display of weakness.
Why didn't you tell me that you'd already been attacked, Mr. Priskop?
Oh, it is but a scratch. A clumsy attempt from the darkness as I returned here. I did not wish to alarm you over nothing.
Nothing? Somebody attempts to murder you, you call it nothing.
I repeat my request, Mr. Holmes. Will you let me stay here a while?
Very well, Mr. Priskop. Since your life is in obvious danger, you may stay here in Baker Street.
Da propaspo, Mr. Holmes. I thank you. And let the Tinaku Orchestra play for the embassy ball in Belgrave Square. Here in Baker Street is the true embassy of Grozny.
Gracious me.
There are two nice brown eggs facing you, Watson. Why glower at them? Why not get on with your breakfast?
Oh, I've got no appetite, Holmes. The whole routine of my life has been turned topsy-turvy since you let that fellow Priscop stay here.
It's a pity that this modest flutter of excitement should upset your lives to such an extent. However, it may interest you to know that my brother Mycroft regards our action in sheltering Priscop as a very important one for England.
Oh, has Mycroft been here this morning?
Yes, before you were up. As you know, Mycroft is the unofficial oracle of our Foreign Office. He feels that the Grosnian royalists are so closely allied to the court of Prussia as to constitute a menace to our country.
Good gracious me.
However, he also feels that the Committee of Powers at The Hague will rule in favor of the People's Party. If that does happen, the fact that we have helped Priscop will place the Foreign Office in a very favorable position with the new government.
I see. Well, that makes it rather different. I think I will tackle those eggs after all. Where is Mr. Priscop now?
In the next room, conferring with a political friend of his by the name of Carlu Tarfush.
I must say they do have extraordinary names. Carlu Tarfush. Sounds like a double-barreled sneeze.
Ah, Mr. Tarfush. Allow me to introduce my friend, Dr. Watson.
Dr. Watson, how do you do?
And how did you find your compatriot?
Oh, in splendid spirit. And in splendid hands, Mr. Holmes. On behalf of Grosnia, I thank you both for giving him sanctuary.
Oh, nothing at all, sir. Nothing at all. Very happy to have been of any assistance.
Right. Come in.
I must be leaving, gentlemen. Good day to you. And again, my most sincere thanks. Oh, pardon.
Got a parcel, gents. It's for a Mr. Prispop or something like that.
Oh, here you are, young fellow, lad. I'll take it.
No, I want to give it to Mr. Holmes. Lummy. Just wait until I tell me old mum I've talked to the great Sherlock Holmes. She won't half be proud. Here you are, Mr. Holmes.
And here's a shilling for your trouble, my boy.
Cool, Bob. Thank you, Governor.
Better be careful, Holmes. That package is addressed to Priscop. It might be a time bomb, you know.
It's sent from the Weintraub Importing Company. We'll see if Mr. Priscop ordered any delivery from there. Ah, there you are, Mr. Priscop. This package just came for you. Were you expecting it?
Oh, yes. Apropos, Mr. Holmes. It is from the Weintraub Company. It must be my Vinku.
The what?
Vinku. Vinku, the wine of my country. Where would Grosnia be without Vinku? The distilled essence and life of whortleberries. No English drink can compare with it. Perhaps you will join me in glass?
I think not, thank you. It's a little early in the day.
Well, I quite agree with you, Holmes.
Then I shall retire to my room alone and sample this Grosnian nectar. I shall see you later, gentlemen.
How can he keep a clear head if he starts drinking at this time of the day?
I doubt if the essence of whortleberries is too potent. At least to a Grosnian.
Great Scott, there's someone else at the door. We have all the privacy of Paddington Station.
Come in.
Ah, so.
Good morning, young lady. What can
Where is he? Tell me where he is.
First, tell me who you are, please.
I'm Lavry Michelso. Where is Priscop? Lead me to him.
Mr. Priscop is under my protection. Before you see him, I insist on knowing your business, madam.
You are hiding him. But I will find him if I have to search every closet in his house. This door leads to another room. Perhaps he's in there.
Come back. Grab her, Watson.
No, mistress.
Priscop, you traitor! You will betray him.
She's insane. She's insane.
There. Justice is done. Do with me what you will.
Quick, Watson. How's Priscop?
He's dead, Holmes. Shot through the chest, another through the arm. The third shot broke the bottle of wine.
Justice has been done.
Mr. Holmes.
Yes, Mr. Tarfush?
You must save Lavry. She's my fiancée. She had good reason to think Priscop a traitor.
But she shot him down in cold blood, sir.
She did it for Grosnia.
She committed murder, practically under our very eyes. She must pay for it. And Dr. Watson and I will have the greatest pleasure in testifying against her. Until her trial takes place, I have nothing further to say.
You seem particularly engrossed at the Times this morning, Holmes.
I'm reading the report of the trial of Lavry Michelso.
I can't see why it's dragging on for so long. We gave our evidence 2 days ago. The case is perfectly clear. She shot Igor Priskov, or whatever his name was, before our eyes. She's a murderess. They should hang her.
Yes, Sir Francis Jackson, her counsel for the defense, apparently does not share your opinion. He's an extremely clever man. After cross-examining the police surgeon yesterday, he asked for an adjournment until noon today.
On what grounds?
He wishes a fresh post-mortem made. The police surgeon had not examined the contents of the stomach of the dead man.
Why, no, should he, Holmes? Priskov was shot to death. We saw it happen. What's Sir Francis up to?
I think I'm beginning to suspect, Watson. And I pray for the sake of my own reputation that I'm wrong. However, it's no use sitting here in Baker Street surmising. Let's go over to the Old Bailey and hear what the post-mortem report discloses.
Gentlemen of the jury, I will read to you the final paragraph of the Home Analyst's report. Sufficient cyanide was found in the stomach of the deceased to have killed 3 men. As you know, cyanide is an almost instantaneous poison. Between this report and the medical evidence you have already heard, there can be no doubt that the deceased, Igor Priskov, was already dead when the defendant fired the bullet into his body. I therefore instruct you to acquit the defendant.
Good heavens, Holmes. You realize this whole case made us look ridiculous?
I'm well aware of the fact. It's a stigma on our professional reputations, and a stigma that must be removed.
Look out here. Here comes Carlo Tarfush, fiancé of the girl who's just been acquitted.
Well, Mr. Tarfush, I imagine you're very happy.
Oh, of course I am, Mr. Holmes. And I'm marrying Lavry today, as soon as the police release her.
Indeed?
Yes. And in the meanwhile, I have a commission for you. Find the real murderer of Igor Priskov. Find him, Mr. Holmes, or you will become the laughing stock of all Europe.
In just a moment, we'll find out if Sherlock Holmes does find the real murderer of Igor Priskov. Men, on hot, sticky summer days, your hair needs extra special care. And when you buy a hair tonic, why not buy one that does lots more than just keep hair looking handsome? Why not get your money's worth and buy Kreml hair tonic? No other hair tonic keeps the hair more neatly groomed and attractive looking. Kreml gives hair such a handsome, clean-cut appearance. It keeps the hair perfectly groomed throughout the hottest, most humid summer day. It never looks or feels greasy or sticky. In addition, Kreml is simply great to lubricate a dry scalp. At the same time, it removes itchy, loose dandruff and leaves the scalp feeling so clean, cool, alive, and tingling. And if your hair is so dry that it breaks off and falls when you comb it, Kreml actually helps condition the hair, in that it leaves it feeling so much softer and more pliable. So buy a bottle of Kreml at any drug counter. Ask for an application at your barber shop. Use this highly specialized hair tonic daily for better groomed hair, a more hygienic scalp. Kreml, Kreml Hair Tonic, a nationwide favorite among America's most successful men. Well, Dr. Watson, it seems to me that you and the great Sherlock Holmes are in a bad spot. A man poisoned and then shot under your very eyes.
Yes, Mr. Merrill, but I can assure you that Holmes, as soon as he returned to Baker Street from the trial, plunged into a fine frenzy of activity. He was examining the top of the table under his microscope for traces of poison where the bottle of wine had been shattered. You've been hunched over that microscope for hours, Holmes. No results yet?
Not as yet.
Well, I was just reading the Evening Gazette. There's an interesting article on the Grosnian situation.
Oh, what does it say?
The committee in The Hague has ruled for the People's Party. And our friend Carlo Tarfush, the one who married the girl Lavry, is to be the new ambassador here in London.
Indeed, how very interesting.
It goes on to say here that they've established that the dead man, Igor Priskov, never was a traitor. The poor girl was deceived by false evidence. The villain who deceived her has fled to Germany.
I was right. This stain, beyond question, is that of wine mixed with cyanide. Now to track the history of that bottle. We know that nobody tampered with it after it went from the messenger boy's hands to Priscop's. Therefore...
But how are we going to find that boy again?
This is a job for my band of street urchins, the Baker Street Irregulars. Round them up, Watson. Tell them I'll give a golden sovereign to the boy that brings him to me first.
Cool. Of course I remember delivering that parcel to you, Mr. Holmes.
Did anyone accost you on your way over here to deliver it, Charlie?
Yes, Mr. Holmes, they did.
Oh, young lady, was it?
Yes, it was. How did you know, sir?
Describe what happened, Charlie.
Well, Mr. Holmes, she spoke to me on the street. Nice and friendly she was. And then she took me in a tea shop and gave me a raspberry tart and a nice big cup of tea.
Where did you put the parcel?
On the chair beside me.
Oh, you see what happened, Holmes. She switched the parcels.
Quite. Charlie, was the young lady a foreigner?
Yes, Mr. Holmes. She didn't half talk funny like.
Look at this photograph. Was that the young lady who you're talking about?
That's her, all right, Mr. Holmes. Blimey, you know everything, don't you, sir?
Not quite, Charlie. Here's 5 shillings for your trouble, and I'll be off with you.
Cool, 5 bob. Thank you, Governor.
So the girl was guilty all the time, but I don't see her motive.
I do. And we're going at once to the Grosnian embassy. Remember, she's now the ambassador's lady. I intend to let her know that I do understand.
Mr. Holmes, your conversation is very interesting. But surely I do not have to point to an intelligent man like yourself. But I've been tried and acquitted of murder. Under your delightful Anglo-Saxon law, double jeopardy, I cannot possibly be tried again.
Oh, just the same, you're a murderess.
Am I?
You were no passionate patriot. You never believed in that forged evidence. You simply killed Igor Priscop because, with him out of the way, you knew that your future husband would become the ambassador.
In my country, we have a proverb. Inshko navili greshko lumaken.
What does that mean?
Ammunition is more persuasive than strategy. Mr. Holmes, you have no ammunition. There is nothing you can do to me. And so, I wish you both good night.
There must be some way of catching her, Watson. There must.
Well, you've been outwitted before, Holmes. People forget it. They don't like to remember your triumphs.
To blazes with the people. I must account for this to myself. Hand me that evening paper, will you, Watson?
There you are.
Now, where was that article on Grosnier that you read to me earlier?
Second page, I think.
Ah, here it is. But I have ammunition, Watson. The lady was wrong.
What on earth are you burbling about, Holmes?
We must draft a telegram to Mr. Tarfush, the new Grosnian ambassador. We'll ask him to hold a party of all the most important Grosnian attaches. There, my dear Watson, amid the bright lights and gay music, I shall have the utmost pleasure in proving to the ambassador's wife that she's far from invulnerable.
Mr. Holmes.
Yes, Mr. Ambassador?
The attaches are waiting in the library. You said that you would expose poor Prescott's murderer. Now, why should we wait any longer?
I shall be most happy to explain it now. Come on, Watson.
Right you are, Holmes.
Your wife is in the library, too, Mr. Tarfush?
Yes, Mr. Holmes, and she is as curious as I am. Now, here we are. Ladies and gentlemen, at my request, Mr. Sherlock Holmes has been trying to find the murderer of poor Igor Priscop. He tells me that he is now ready to make his report.
Mr. Ambassador, ladies and gentlemen, I realize that my revelation will be something of a shock to you all. I have proof beyond doubt that the person who murdered Igor Priscop by poison is the same person who fired those shots into his already dead body. Your own wife, Mr. Ambassador.
But that is ridiculous, Holmes. We know that she misguidedly shot at Prescott after he was dead. But she did not poison him.
I can prove that she did. I have the boy outside, Mrs. Tarbush, that you took into the tea shop when you changed the bottles of wine. I have the evidence of the stains on the table that show traces of the poisoned wine. Do you wish me to prove my case?
Lavry, why do you not answer him?
I do not wish to, Carlo. I do not have to. Under English law, I cannot be tried again.
Lavry, you stand accused before your fellow countrymen.
Perhaps I can clear up a slight misapprehension. It is true, is it not, Mr. Tarbush, that Grosnian law does not recognize the doctrine of double jeopardy, and therefore a Grosnian could be tried twice for the same crime?
Of course.
It is also true, isn't it, that the Committee of Powers in The Hague has recognized that the People's Party has been all along the true government of Grosnia?
That also is true, Mr. Holmes.
And an embassy is extraterritorial. Acts committed there are punished by the laws of the nation whose embassy it is.
You are correct, Mr. Holmes.
This embassy here is Grosnian ground. So was 221B Baker Street when Mr. Prescott was murdered. Therefore, your wife committed her crime in Grosnia. She may still be arrested, tried, convicted, and executed by Grosnian law. Mr. Ambassador, I demand that your embassy guards arrest this murderess.
Anything interesting in this morning's post, Holmes?
Yes, Watson. And when you come to write your story of the Grosnian murderess, these 3 missives will provide colorful footnotes.
Oh, what are they?
The first is a note from Carlo Tarbush. He is resigning the embassy and entering a monastery. He says, I served his country but destroyed his life.
Well, I'm afraid he loved that dreadful woman. What else did you get?
The second is a package from the Grosnian government.
Good Lord.
Look.
What is it? Oh, good Lord. It's a platinum cross.
The Order of St. Hilarious.
What's the funny-looking thing hanging from it? Looks like some strange animal. Half horse and half something else.
That, my dear chap, is known as a hippogriff. A fabled beast with the head and claws of a griffin and the hoofs and tail of a horse. The Order of St. Hilarious is a high order, but St. Hilarious with hippogriff is higher still. I'm very flattered.
What was your third communication?
A letter from my brother Mycroft. He says, thanks to your work, Grosnia has signed a British oil concession. The Empire is grateful.
That's very nice, Holmes.
Yes, Watson, yes, very nice. But just grateful? I mean to say not even grateful with hippogriff?
Girls, those famous $1 million Powers models you see on magazine covers always have to keep their hair shining bright with gleaming highlights. Now, here's how they do it.
We glamour bathe our hair with Kreml shampoo. And I want to state right here and now that no other shampoo leaves the hair more sparkling clean. Really, girls, you'll be amazed how Kreml shampoo reveals all your hair's natural gleaming luster. It leaves hair shimmering with brilliant highlights that last for days.
Kreml shampoo is not a cream shampoo, not a soapless shampoo, not a harsh soap, not a drying detergent. It's entirely different. After a Kreml shampoo, the hair fairly radiates natural glossy highlights. And Kreml shampoo is one shampoo you can buy which never dries or breaks the hair. In fact, it even has a built-in oil base, which helps keep the hair from becoming dry or brittle.
How right you are, Mr. Bell. Kreml shampoo leaves the hair so much softer, silkier, with a lovely satin smoothness. The hair holds a wave better, too.
So, ladies, buy a bottle of Kreml shampoo at any drug counter. See how easy it is to have naturally lustrous hair, a vision of shining beauty. Kreml, Kreml shampoo. Now, Dr. Watson, what about next week?
Well, now let me think. Next week for our final broadcast of the season, I think I'll tell you about one of the most gruesome adventures that we ever encountered. It took place in the famous torture chamber, now a museum, in the castle of Nuremberg in Germany. I call it The Adventure of the Iron Maiden.
Tonight's new Sherlock Holmes adventure was suggested by an incident in Sir Arthur Conan Doyle's story, A Scandal in Bohemia. Nigel Bruce appeared by permission of Universal International Pictures. Tom Conway through the courtesy of Eagle Lion Pictures. The Sherlock Holmes series is produced by Tom McKnight, with original music composed and conducted by Alex Steiner. This is Joseph Bell speaking for Kreml Hair Tonic and Kreml Shampoo, inviting you to be with us next week at this same time, when Dr. Watson will tell us about the adventure of the Iron Maiden. This is ABC, the American Broadcasting Company.
Welcome back. Well, as Dr. Watson referenced, this is the second to last episode of the season, and also the second to last episode for this pairing of Conway and Bruce. And so, 38 episodes in, the writers deliver this particular episode, which has some interesting features. Most of all is the somewhat odd transformation of Baker Street into the foreign embassy because a guy said so. I'm technically sure you need more than that. And also, since she sent the poison in from outside the embassy, 221B Baker Street, under Groznian law, which is, of course, a fictional country, would they be able to charge her when it got into the embassy? So a lot of confusion in this particular episode. Not my favorite of the ones they've done this season. But when you're doing 39 shows a season, there's generally going to be one that's not as good. We'll see if they can finish strong with next week's episode. We have a listener comment over on Facebook from Tim who writes, enjoy the show, Adam. Did the Charlie Chan mysteries ever come out on the radio? I enjoy when you tell us about what was happening in the world when the radio shows first aired. Keep up the good work. Well, thanks a lot, Tim. In answer to your question, Charlie Chan was actually one of the first detectives to radio after Sherlock Holmes. In terms of serious detectives on the radio, he and Mr. Keen, Tracer of Lost Persons, were featured on the air in 15-minute serials. And later there was a half-hour Charlie Chan radio program. Of American Charlie Chan shows, you have parts 4 through 7 of a 7-part series out in circulation. It's got the solution to the case, but you miss a lot of the lead-up about the Colonel Willoughby case. And then several scattered 15-minute episodes from the 1930s that don't form a link into any sort of complete case. And then one World War II episode, half-hour episode, of the Charlie Chan radio program that appeared on Mystery Playhouse. And that's about all that remains in circulation of Charlie Chan's U.S. radio adventures. Most half-hour radio shows you'll see out there for Charlie Chan, if say you go out and you buy a disc, are not U.S.-based episodes, but are Australian. And Australian version of Charlie Chan is pretty good. But U.S. version, not a whole lot of it out there. We'll definitely eventually play that one half-hour Charlie Chan U.S. show. If you have any thoughts on whether you'd like to hear parts 4 through 7 of a 7-part mystery just for the rarity's sake, love to hear from listeners on that. Email box13@greatdetectives.net. And also, if you happen to have all 7 parts of the Colonel Willoughby story, email me as well, box13@greatdetectives.net. Then we have a listener comment for Podcast Alley. Just a simple, great podcast. I listen every day. Thanks, Adam. Well, thank you so much for all your comments, feedback, support. We will be back tomorrow with yours truly, Johnny Dollar. Well, before we do get started with today's show, I want to encourage you to support our listener support campaign by giving a donation. If you wish, it'll support our continuing efforts here. Go to support.greatdetectives.net. Do want to recognize our friend Brian Ashby for sending along a nice donation to help us along. It is much appreciated. With all donations of $7 or more, you're eligible for our premium site, which has all the extras we do for the app, because I understand not everyone has access to an Android phone or an iPhone. And then at the $20 or greater level, you're eligible for an additional, and I would say optional, gift of audio drama, some great modern plays from the Colonial Radio Theater, the BBC, as well as some fine high-fidelity recordings from radioarchives.com are among those being offered. Go to support.greatdetectives.net to learn more. And if you're interested in receiving one, just be sure to email it in when you send the donation. Otherwise, we'll just assume you're passing on that option. All right, well, now it's time for today's episode of yours truly, Johnny Dollar. It's the Merrill Kent matter.
From Hollywood, it's time now for Edmund O'Brien as
Johnny Dollar.
This is Mr. Lavery at Washington Life. Are you available for an assignment?
Yes, I am, Mr. Lavery.
Fine. You'll have to go to New Mexico, a little town near Gallup.
That's all right. What's the case?
We want to look into the death of a Merrill Kent. It was generally accepted that his death was the result of an accident, and he was buried day before yesterday. On that same day, the police received information to the effect that he was murdered.
Well, this kind of thing can be awkward. No autopsy, I suppose.
No, arranging one will be your first job. If the man was murdered, we want to find out.
Edmund O'Brien in a transcribed adventure of the man with the action-packed expense account, America's fabulous freelance insurance investigator.
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar. Expense account submitted by Special Investigator Johnny Dollar to Home Office, Washingtonian Life Insurance Company, Hartford, Connecticut. The following is an accounting of expenditures during my investigation of the Merrill Kent matter. Expense account item 1, $145, transportation via air, train, and finally rented car from Hartford to Fort Scott, New Mexico, which is a small village where the law is attended by a deputy sheriff named York. After I checked into a hotel, I met him in his cubbyhole of an office.
Well, I don't know what to think about the darn thing. Get everything all settled, and then some blame fool riles it up again.
Was it a local phone call?
Local? Yeah. Oh, a month ago, I could have found out who made it just by asking the operator. Used to have their finger on everything in town, but we got a dial system now. I didn't recognize her voice because she was, tricking it up.
What did she say?
Yeah, she called while the funeral was going on, you know.
Yeah, I understood that.
Yeah, she said something from the Bible and that she couldn't stay silent while the good man's body was being submitted to the grave, as she put it. Then she said she wasn't sure enough to accuse anybody out in the open, but that she thought Mr. Kent had been murdered.
No more than that? Didn't she name anybody?
No, she just hung up.
Yeah, isn't much to start from, is it?
No. You know, I knew Kent. He was a good horseman, but better ones have been killed the same way. See, the horse falls and the rider's foot slips through the stirrup. Then when the horse gets up, he panics with his thing stuck there and dragging at him. He doesn't have to run 100 yards. The man's dead. Well, Kent's horse must have run 3 miles.
How do you know that?
Well, the way he was blowing when he got back to the ranch. He dragged Kent all the way home, you know.
But you don't know where it happened, huh?
No. Kent bred horses and was out all the time exercising them, so it could have happened any place. I just say the man had some hard luck. He's dead and buried, and as far as I'm concerned, that should be the end of it.
Yeah, you're probably right. The insurance company has a sizable investment to protect if they can. They want an autopsy, so I guess we'll have to have one.
Well, how do you figure on working that out?
I know the widow won't okay one, and some survivor has to in this state.
Have you talked to her about this?
No, but she's been through enough as it is. Why should I want to open it up again?
You'd think she'd want to know if her husband was murdered or not.
She doesn't know anything about the phone call.
She doesn't?
I didn't think it was worth telling her about.
I'm afraid you'll have to be told, but I'll spare you the trouble. Small town like this, I know it's tough.
Yeah, that's right, it is.
Who was the doctor that was called, the one that signed the death certificate?
His name's Snyder.
Yeah, thanks. Where's his office?
It's in his house down on Elm Street, 2nd Street just past the hotel.
I'll find it. Thanks again, Sheriff. Sorry I have to stir things up. I'll do it as quietly as I can. Right then, I didn't know how to figure the sheriff. It was fairly obvious that he didn't approve of what I was doing. For the time being, I charged it off to the fact that no law officer enjoys the possibility that a crime might have gone unpunished right under his nose. Dr. Hugo Snyder's shingle on a white fence identified the address on Elm Street. A side door led to his office waiting room. I was met there by a woman in a nurse's uniform.
Good afternoon, sir.
How do you do? Dr. Snyder in?
Yes, but he's busy at the moment. Do you have an appointment?
No, I don't. I'm not a patient. Well, here, I have to talk to him about something else. Here's my card.
Insurance investigator.
That's right.
Mr. Dollar, please don't think me an overly inquisitive nurse. I'm Mrs. Snyder.
Oh, well, that does make a difference. I want to talk to him about a death he attended a little while ago. Mr. Merrill Kent.
Mr. Kent?
Yes, the company that held his life policy sent me.
Oh, I see. They think an investigation is needed.
There's a chance, yes. That's what I wanted to talk to the doctor about. If I can see him now.
He's in the X-ray lab. I'll see if he can come out. Hugo.
Yes, what is it?
There's a gentleman here to see you. It's about Merrill Kent.
What about it?
Well, I don't know, dear. He's an investigator from an insurance company.
All right, I'll be right out.
I hope you'll excuse me for being curious.
Surely.
Is it a usual thing in cases like this to have an investigation?
Not exactly. It probably should be, but unless something about a case seems to call for looking into, nothing is done.
How do you do?
Dr. Snyder?
This is Mr. Dollar.
Yes. You're an insurance investigator, Mr. Dollar?
Yes, a rare thing in Fort Scott, I take it.
Here's his card, dear.
Yes, I don't understand why you're here. What is it about Merrill Kent?
Well, it could be I'm on a fool's errand, Dr. Snyder. It wouldn't be the first one. But the day of Kent's funeral, Sheriff York got a phone call from somebody who hinted that his death wasn't accidental.
Why, that's ridiculous. Of course it was accidental. He was dragged to death by a horse.
And the first people to see him were his wife and her brother, who notified you, right?
That's right. Harris phoned me, and I went right out.
Ah. Now, you as a doctor realize that you can't diagnose a patient's condition without examining him. Same thing holds for this situation. I say that because I want you to understand that the things I'm going to bring up are only possibilities.
Of course.
The symptoms I work on. Now, how long did it take you to get to the Kent Ranch after you were called?
No more than 15 minutes.
And Kent was dead when you got there?
Yes, and probably had been for some time.
Where was the body when you first saw it?
Near the corral. Harris had brought blankets out. I don't know what hopes he must have had that Kent was alive, but he'd put blankets on the ground and one over him.
Then his foot wasn't stuck in the stirrup when you got there?
No, Harris had freed him as soon as he could.
And you couldn't swear that his foot had ever been in the stirrup, could you?
Good Lord, Mr. Dollar,
Now, wait a minute, Doctor, please. Please, these are only possibilities. Did you see his boot? Marks must have been left on it. Did you examine his ankle? Must have been bruised or wrenched.
No, of course I didn't. I wasn't concerned with his ankle or his boot.
Well, did anyone look at them? Sheriff York wasn't called in at all, was he?
No, because it was a clear case of accident.
What about his hands, his arms? And his clothes must have been torn to shreds.
I didn't notice. He was covered from his shoulders down, as I remember.
Well, who would have noticed? What about the undertaker?
The body was taken to Leesburg that same evening, the Weinreich mortuary. It's about 15 miles north of here.
How about your examination, Doctor? Would you tell me about it?
Well, very little was necessary. He died as a result of severe multiple fractures of the skull.
And I don't suppose you could tell which of these fractures was the fatal one?
No, of course not.
Or which was the first one?
Of course I couldn't.
Then he could have been hit on the head by somebody and then dragged by the horse, couldn't he?
I signed a certificate to the effect that his death was accidental. I firmly believe that it was.
Now, nobody doubts your sincerity, Doctor, but you'll have to admit that since somebody has mentioned murder, there are some angles that could stand looking into.
I tell you there aren't. But what do you propose to do?
We're going to order an autopsy. Kent had a sister living in Seattle. She's on her way here in case we need her authority to get one. I want to thank you both, and I hope I won't have to bother you again.
Good day, Mr. Dollar. Hilda, what's the matter? Stop it. What's the matter?
Later. Don't worry, we will. Now, goodbye, Mrs. Green. Oh, hello there, Mr. Dollar.
Hi, Sheriff.
Oh, how you getting along?
It's hard to tell yet, but the doctor's death certificate could be full of holes.
How do you figure that?
It's nothing against him, but he had to admit the cause of death didn't have to be accidental.
He said that?
Yeah, so I want to find out everything I can about Kent before I see the widow. Assuming the possibility of murder for a minute, Can you think of anybody that could have done it?
No, I can't think of anybody.
How'd he get along in town? Was he well-liked?
Well, he didn't have much to do with the town. He was away a lot to horse shows and sales, things like that.
How long would he be away on these trips?
Well, I never kept tabs on that. No reason to.
He'd take Mrs. Kent with him?
Most often he didn't, I'd say. She seemed to be here pretty steady.
Do you have any idea how they got along?
I wouldn't know anything about that. Never heard one way or another.
Where is the Kent Ranch, Sheriff?
You turn to the left at Bryan's store. It's out 5.5 miles.
Thanks.
Oh, Mr. Dollar.
Yeah?
I know you think I'm acting kind of strange about this, and, well, I guess I am. These people are my friends, and you grow close together in a place this size.
I told you I understood that.
I guess I don't want any of them to turn out to be a killer.
Have you remembered something that you want to tell me?
No, it's nothing like that. I wouldn't lie to you. But it seems like you've got it in your mind that Maxine Kent might have had something to do with her husband dying.
I didn't say that.
Everybody likes her, Mr. Dollar. Loves her, I guess is more like it. She was born here. Now, if you're going to make it rough on her, I'd watch my step if I was you.
Thanks for the advice, Sheriff. The way you seem to feel, I wonder that you reported that phone call at all. The ranch was quite a surprise. I'd halfway expected the layout to be like the village and the other ranches I'd passed, old and badly cared for. But the residence was chalk white with a tiled roof and long, shaded verandas. Around it, the grounds were well-groomed, and behind it were a few low, white outbuildings. A woman I assumed to be the widow was standing at the edge of the drive as I pulled up. She was strikingly beautiful, in her mid-20s, with coal black hair and eyes, the kind of slim, almost boyish figure they write about, and the complexion and color put there by the sun. I could see why the town felt the way they did about her.
Well, Mr. Dollar?
Yeah, I seem to have been preceded by my infamy.
My brother's in town. He phoned me that you were on your way out. He didn't tell me where he'd learned it, but...
I only told one man, Sheriff York.
That isn't important. It really isn't. They're all doing what they think is right. They think they're helping me. But I can realize that all they've done is give you more and more reason for suspicion. Isn't that true?
So far, yes.
Come up on the veranda where we can sit down. Then you can tell me what to do.
Sure.
Have a chair?
This is fine.
I'd made up my mind that I wouldn't go to pieces, but if I do, you'll have to forgive me. How do I order an autopsy when everything... when the funeral...
All that's needed is your signature, Mrs. Kent, on a form that says you're authorized one.
I will. If it's the right thing to do, I'll do it. Is that all?
As far as I'm concerned, yes. The rest of it will be up to the county. They'll ask if you suspect anyone.
I don't. I don't suspect anyone.
They'll ask who you suspect of calling the police.
But I don't suspect anyone.
Then it'll be up to the coroner's jury. Sorry, Miss Kent, I don't know if you can understand that because of the phone call, I couldn't do anything but press this.
Don't understand. I don't understand any of it, but I'll do what's right. Unless there's something else, I wish you'd go now.
When I drove away from the ranch, I would have given my salary and a lot more if I could have skirted the village and kept right on going. I still wish I had.
You the guy from the insurance company?
That's right. Where's Sheriff York?
He's over at Doc Snyder's. Just phoned and said if you showed up to get right over there.
Why?
Mrs. Snyder killed herself. She left a letter. She said she was the one who made the phone call that started this whole thing.
We will return you to yours truly, Johnny Dollar, in just a moment. Gangbusters shouldn't have relatives. That would seem to be the moral of the exciting Gangbusters case tonight. Hear the case of the talkative boy, in which a crook is corralled through telling testimony furnished to San Francisco police by his young nephew. Don't miss Gangbusters, with another action-packed story based on police records, tonight on most of these same CBS radio stations. Now with our star Edmund O'Brien, we bring you the second act of yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
Sheriff York?
Yeah, who is it? Oh. Well, I guess you got the news.
Briefly, yeah. What's the story?
Well, the doctor was in the office, and he called for Mrs. Snyder. She didn't answer, and when he came out to look for her, he found her in there, in the parlor. She was dead on the couch.
The note. What else did it say except that she was the one that phoned you?
It's there on the table. Something about there was nothing behind it but false suspicion and wrecking her life beyond repair. I don't know, it's kind of wandering.
What kind of false suspicion? Her husband and Mrs. Kent?
It looks that way. Come on, we'll go on in. You can read it yourself.
Yeah. Where's the doctor?
He's in his room.
Alone?
You're through here. Yeah, that's the way he wanted it. He's mighty busted up over it.
Have you reported the county yet?
I called him as soon as I got here. Some men are on the way. Well, there she is. I covered her up. You know, she never seemed like a person that'd kill herself.
The note was addressed to whom it may concern. I won't attempt to quote it. The main idea was that she had been driven to phone Sheriff York by a blind suspicion of her husband's feelings towards Maxine Kent. Then, when she learned these suspicions were groundless, she realized that there was no longer any chance for happiness. The closing words begged her husband's forgiveness and swore to his innocence. Sheriff York would rather not go with me, but he guessed it would be all right if I talked to the doctor.
Again, Mr. Dollar.
Yes, things haven't cleared up very quickly, have they?
No, Scott has accomplished a great deal. Suppose I was being too objective. I meant the 2 lives have been ruined since you arrived. Wives of my own.
You didn't mean that I ruined them.
No, of course not. Circumstance that should have been entirely harmless, not even known. Misunderstand me, I'm not defending no reason to anymore.
Those circumstances drove your wife to breaking the case open, with you in the middle.
Her own version of it. I am in love with Maxine Kent. I have been. If I'd been selfish and divorced my wife, if Maxine had been the same, none of this would have had the meaning that it has now.
But one doesn't do things like that in a small town unless one is prepared to leave. We weren't.
Why not?
The doctor's money is nothing. She had none. But we were intelligent people. We had control of our emotions. So we talked and decided not to see each other again. I'll admit I lied to my wife. Not well. I suspected the truth. When Kent was killed, I think she lost her mind with doubt.
You did say killed, didn't you?
Yes. I mustn't forget that my motive is now public, isn't it? That part of her note will be remembered. That she realized she was wrong isn't important, is it?
That depends. By itself, this is a good story, all of it. But it falls to pieces when it's told by the doctor who signed Merrill Kent's death certificate.
Yes, I suppose it does. But it's the truth.
If it is, you can prove it. Where were you the afternoon Kent was killed?
Sometimes you can't prove the truth. I was in the office, working with my wife.
Then why did she think you had killed him?
Because she left for about an hour to shop.
What did you do during that time?
I came here to this room and rested.
Is there any way to prove that? Anyone see you?
No. And if you can't prove it, it's not the truth.
If you can, it holds up better in court.
You're convinced that I'm guilty, aren't you?
All I can do is work with what's at hand. If you are, you'd better plead it. If you aren't, you'd better keep your fingers crossed for a quick confession from someone else.
Mr. Dollar, tell me, has it been proved that he was murdered?
The autopsy should be underway by tomorrow afternoon.
Kent's sister has arrived?
We don't need her. His widow is authorizing one.
I see.
Anything more to say?
No. No, I don't think there's anything more to say.
Deputies from county headquarters arrived at 6:30 p.m. On their orders, Dr. Snyder was removed to the single cell of the Fort Scott jail. He wasn't questioned that evening, but the headquarters men quite pointedly had their doubts that his wife's death was due to suicide. When I'd given them everything I had, I drove back to the Kent ranch. This time, I wasn't met by the beautiful widow. A man stood waiting for me at the edge of the driveway.
Hello. I saw your lights coming up the road.
I came to see Mrs. Kent.
I'm sorry, she's not here.
Where is she?
She had to go to Santa Fe. I'm her brother. Can I do anything for you?
I don't need any help, thanks. We'll have the Santa Fe police pick her up.
Wait a minute.
It was a pretty sudden trip to Santa Fe, wasn't it?
No, she does this a couple times a month. It's not as close as Albuquerque, but she likes it better. Your name, Dollar?
How soon did she leave after Mrs. Snyder killed herself?
I think it was before.
Couldn't have been. I was here.
Here with Maxine?
You people ought to get your signal straight. She said you phoned her that I was on my way out from town. How come you didn't know it? Or didn't you really call?
Well, you're right. Things got confusing.
Oh, I sure did. Where's your sister?
It's true. She's in Santa Fe. I told her not to go because everything she did like that was making it look worse.
That's right. Why'd she go?
When she heard about the doc's wife, she flew apart. Until then, she was sure Kent hadn't been murdered. When that happened, she seemed to change her mind.
I guess we can charge it off to the old beat-up prerogative women are supposed to have. I'm going back to my hotel. Get some sleep.
Wait just a second. I want to tell you this. Whatever happened, Maxine didn't have anything to do with it.
What did happen?
I don't know. I'm no expert. I was here when the horse dragged Kent in. I took his foot out of the stirrup and laid him down. Maybe I should have waited until the governor came. I don't know.
Anyway, you took him down.
To me, he was dragged to death. But you say he might have been hit on the head by somebody. I don't know.
Doc Snyder?
I don't know.
Did you see him out here that afternoon?
No. As far as I'm concerned, he quit coming out a couple of weeks ago. Before that, he kept after Maxine. She told me that. Then she made him stop.
How'd she stop him?
She told him she couldn't divorce Kent.
You're trying to clear her, and that's natural.
I'd like to see the truth come out.
Well, let's work on that then. When was the last time your sister and Snyder were together?
A couple of weeks ago. I didn't hear it, but I was here when she told him it had to stop. That was the last time he came out.
Did she meet him any place?
No, and I'm sure of that. I made it my business to find out where she went and who she saw. She never met him.
Did he phone her?
Yes, but it finally got to the point where I'd answer the phone and she wouldn't talk to him.
Do you know if she ever phoned him?
I don't think she did. I don't know why she should. What are you driving at?
I want to find out if Snyder could have discovered that Kent was out riding that afternoon. If he could have found out where he was going and could have met him.
My sister couldn't have told him because she didn't know.
You sure of that?
She was in her room resting. I'm the only one who knew where he was going.
Are you still protecting her?
It's the truth. I talked to him just before he left. He was breaking this horse to shoot off of, and he went out toward McNeil Canyon to find some jackrabbits.
They'd make better witnesses if they could talk. Have to have your sister picked up.
How soon will that order go out?
Why?
I just thought she might get hold of herself and come back tonight. It'd be a break if you could wait till morning.
She didn't ask for a break by leaving. I'll think it over and check back with you. The next day, things moved slowly. Mrs. Kent did come back on her own and signed for an autopsy. I didn't see her. By that evening, her husband's body had been exhumed, and by noon the following day, the coroner's report was out. There was no actual post-mortem evidence of murder, but the openings were still there. Considering the circumstances, there was no proof that it wasn't murder either. The inquest verdict was the familiar death by misadventure, or at the hands of person or persons unknown. Dr. Snyder and the body of his wife were carted off to the county seat for more questioning and examination. And I spent the rest of the day with Sheriff York and a flock of volunteer citizens going over everything we had from the beginning again. It was a long, hot afternoon. After a shower and some food that evening, I started back to the Kent Ranch.
You again, Dollar? I thought you'd be through with this since Doc Snyder was arrested.
Not quite. Your sister here?
What do you want with her?
I want to talk to her. Give her my apologies.
Apologies? I haven't noticed the side of you that would bother with them.
Is she here?
She's too upset to be bothered.
Ask Mr. Dollar in, Harry. Why are you acting that way?
Thank you, Mrs. Kent.
Please come in.
Why'd you run out the other night, Mrs. Kent?
I don't know. When Hugo's wife... I lost my head.
She came back, didn't she?
I'm glad she did. She had nothing to run away from.
What do you mean?
Well, we're satisfied now that your husband's death was accidental.
You know this, Dollar?
I was with Sheriff York. We went out toward McNeil Canyon. Found the spot where it happened. Your husband fired a rifle. We found it. His horse reared and fell. The marks in the ground show that. It was dragged from there. There are traces of that, too.
It's over. It's all over. Merrill. Merrill, they believe me now.
Expense account item 2, miscellaneous, $88.40. Item 3, same as item 1, transportation back to Hartford. Expense account total, $378.40. Remarks? I'm sorry about the happy ending. The fact that everybody told the truth and that nobody was a criminal, and that the insurance claim is as good as New Mexico gold. Yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar, stars Edmund O'Brien in the title role and is written by Gil Dowd with music by Wilbur Hatch. Edmund O'Brien will soon be seen starring in the Paramount Pictures production, Silver City. Featured in tonight's cast were Ray Hartman, Joseph Kearns, Jeanette Nolan, Edgar Barrier, Virginia Gregg, and Hy Averback. Yours truly, Johnny Dollar, is transcribed in Hollywood by Jaime Del Valle.
This is Clarence Cassell inviting you to join us next week at this time when Edmund O'Brien returns as...
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar. This is Edmund O'Brien again. I'd like to speak to you for a moment about one of the most important duties of American citizens. Today, every American has an opportunity to share in our common defense effort. And right now, this opportunity has become a duty for all of us. The armed forces of the United States need blood, our blood. The Korean campaign has gravely depleted the supply on hand, and this must be replenished if we are to afford our servicemen the protection they are giving us. No matter what your age, sex, or station in life, you can contribute to American defense by donating a pint of your blood to the men of your Army, Navy, Air Force, or Marines. Call your local blood donor center or Red Cross chapter today for an appointment. Remember, your donation of blood may save the life of a wounded serviceman. Give your blood today to save a life tomorrow.
Partners, if you're looking for exciting Western adventure, you've come to the right network. Every Saturday on CBS Radio, most of these same stations bring you the Gene Autry Show and Bill Boyd as Hopalong Cassidy. Listen tonight. Stay tuned now for the Vaughn Monroe Show, which follows immediately over most of these same stations. And remember, Gene Autry every Saturday evening on the CBS Radio Network.
Welcome back. Well, it's one of those rare cases where it turns out nobody did it, and the idea of foul play was exaggerated. A little bit of a change, and not something usually happens in mystery, but when you're in the middle of a show that runs as long as yours truly, Johnny Dollar, it can be refreshing to kind of break it up. Because most of these insurance investigations do turn out to be accident. Though the end part where he was getting sarcastic, the Edmund O'Brien portrayal does tend to do that, even if there's not a whole lot of call for sarcasm. I could just imagine the insurance agent getting that, and saying, okay. Well, for those of you who have our app or premium site, we have our last Edmund O'Brien Extra. This one is a bit different. It features Edmund O'Brien as a guest on the quiz show, the Quiz Kids. I thought it would be interesting and a kind of unique change of pace. Well, now we turn to listener comments and feedback. Kimber writes, I know I'm in the minority, but I'm not a fan of Dick Powell. I've loved listening to Nero Wolfe and Sherlock Holmes and Box 13 and Let George Do It, but the way Powell says baby and acts like a lady killer just annoys me. I know, something for everyone. I do have to admit that is the first critical on Dick Powell. I've actually had more people say they don't like Sherlock Holmes. But anyway, she goes on to the real reason for her point. Did any of Britain's golden age of mystery authors characters do a weekly radio broadcast? Peter Wimsey or Albert Campion or Miss Marple or Inspector Allen? I was just curious. Would love to hear the series if so. Well, thanks a lot for the question, Kimber. In answer to the question, the only one that made an appearance was Poirot. The rest of them did not have any weekly radio presence in the United States. Miss Marple actually did appear as one of several detectives. It was on the show Murder Clinic. I've referenced it before. Murder Clinic, a fantastic program, basically taking and adapting detectives' short stories to the radio. These were considered famous, well-known detectives of the time. There were several: Father Brown, Parker Pine, and Gideon Fale, among some of the British characters that were adapted. Unfortunately, except for the Poirot episode, the British detectives in the series, none of their episodes survives. However, Lord Peter did actually was a character on one episode of Suspense, a very early episode called The Caves of Ali Baba. And I will definitely bring that to you one of these days. All right, well, now we get a comment here from Debbie, who says, "My teenage daughters and I continue to be big fans. Thank you so much for the time you put in your podcast, Adam. We enjoy Dragnet as well. Nearly every night when I go to say goodnight, they are attentively listening to one or the other. They always enjoy the dated references to life back in the day, like the cost of the sandwich, the cost of Johnny Dollar's plane pipes, or the rotary dial phone. I really appreciate a family show that we can all enjoy. Keep up the good work, and thank you," from Debbie. Well, thanks so much, Debbie. I was just reading a magazine article online, and they pointed out that the high school class of 2015, those who will graduate from high school in 4 years, among other things, they've never used a dial phone. Of course, I've didn't use it a whole lot either growing up, but this kind of captures a good look into the past, and also that sense when a program is still timeless and interesting all these years later. And so I'm glad you and your daughters are enjoying the show. And that'll actually do it for this week. Thank you so much for all your support. I hope you have a wonderful Labor Day weekend. We'll be back next week with another episode of yours truly, Johnny Dollar, on Friday. And, of course, on Monday, Labor Day, we'll have Barrie Craig, Confidential Investigator. You won't want to miss it. In the meanwhile, send your comments, box 13 at greatdetectives.net. Give us a call, 208-991-4783, and also I encourage you to consider supporting our listener support campaign. Go to support.greatdetectives.net. But from Boise, Idaho, this is your host, Adam Graham, signing off.